I've been learning Harry Nilsson's Popeye music. You know what that is?
I don't know if I know the.
It's the Robin Williams Popeye.
I never saw that movie.
You never saw it? It's really
No.
good. Who's the director? It's what's his name? He's a really good director. The problem with it is he did too good at directing. He tried to make it too real of a movie. You know what I mean? Charlie, come on. Not really.
Yeah, it wasn't a big hit, was it?
No, it flopped, but I loved it as a kid.
That was 1980.
Yeah.
Robert Altman?
Told you. Yeah.
Wow.
And Harry Nilsson wrote all the music. And that's what this music is. You got to hear what the songs are. He's like,
I recognize that song.
Oh, Popeye, oh, I am what I am.
I totally recognize that song.
Yeah, but it's a. I'm Popeye the sailor. I'm Popeye the sailor. I'm Popeye the sailor. I'm what I am, and I am what I am. I am what I am. I'm Popeye the sailor man.
Man, that sounded good.
Yeah, that's the intro. We had to start with the song because I was going to play the song first thing. Did you listen to the song yet?
Which one?
You haven't. That's good. Live reactions better.
No, and I didn't watch any of that RFM stuff.
That's what it was on.
I did listen to all of Kara today on fast speed.
Oh really? Are we live? Is this working? It looks like there's 7 people there. How did that go? I spaced out the last quarter of it. Did anything?
I mean, it's just the typical shit. I mean, she's totally projecting and she has no self-awareness, and I mean, it's just amazing how much she talks about logic and reason. It's like
empathy. What's up, Maple Lake Mountain? What's up, Ecstasy Bereft? The Ecstasy Bereft. Do you not like us saying your old name? Is it? Yeah, I remember what it was, but we'll keep the new moniker. He was old Blue Eyes. There's so much to cover. Jared's gonna be here. Kevin said he's gonna try to be here. We got Charles Wagner. Les Caramore banjo. There is a running joke with my girlfriend, and my band would always say it is she didn't like my banjo playing. She's Venezuelan, and she'd always go, "Stop, stop, stop." And so the joke was, and whenever I start playing the banjo and I pick up the banjo with my band, they go, "Stop, stop, stop."
How very racist colonialist of them.
Yeah, but yeah, that banjo. Look, it's thoughts and things and stuff. Charles Streeter.
I was just watching Red Letter Media review of Picard season 3.
I'm guessing they like it because
they like it. They they think it's good. Like I
Nerdrotic likes it. Computing Forever likes it. A lot of people who've hated Star Trek for years are liking it because they feel like it's throwing them a bone to really doing the old stuff.
And, I mean, like they just talked about how there's like a whole scene that's characters in a room talking.
Well, not to spoil it, but they say
classic Trek.
Because I can't spoil it. I don't know much, but they say like the finale of the season is full Trek, and like everybody liked it. But then nowadays the way they are, they're all like, well, now I can't trust them because they're going to pull the rug out from under me later or something like that. But so far the reviews straight across the board from like all those people like Nerdrotic and those people, they all liked it. So I don't know if you have to watch. I don't know if you have to watch season 1 or season 2 to.
I kind of doubt it. And modern writers are generally good enough that they don't make you do that.
I've watched enough reviews of them. Like I'm positive. I haven't watched Last Jedi. I haven't watched those 2 seasons of Star Trek. I can tell you about what the entire storylines of them are. I guarantee I could make somebody think I saw them.
I think like if I scrape my memory, I think I can put together maybe 45 seconds of Last Jedi that I remember. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you
just
actually saw it though, right?
Yeah, it's just so much happening so fast, and it's all so stupid, and it's just completely forgettable, totally forgettable. There's
That's
just a
where
few
I
moments that I'm
stopped.
like, that was dumb. Oh, that was dumb, and that was dumb. And that's all I
'Cause-
remember from that show.
Because I saw what was the seventh one? Not Phantom Menace was the old stuff. The sequels, the very first sequel, and I thought maybe they were trying to do like a good angle, like they could go somewhere from that, even though they screwed the pooch by killing Han Solo or whatever. But I was like, yeah, they could save it. And then when I heard what was going on with Last Jedi, I was like, nope, not even gonna watch it. Never gonna watch it, even when it's free. I'm not gonna watch it. I'm done. Not doing it. Although I did watch some Mandalorian season 1, but I fell off of that too. Are you keeping up with any of those? Is Flip frozen or am I frozen? Flip. Who's frozen? I hope it's just, is it Flip who's gone or is it me? Anybody there? Do you know if that was me or if that was you?
I'm back. I don't know. What? Is it working?
What's up,
going
man?
on?
Kevin, who's freezing? Is it me freezing or is it Flip freezing?
I think it's
Flip
me.
is gone. Okay.
I can't
Am I
tell.
back?
Yeah, I couldn't tell when it was just two
Hello?
of us. I was completely lost there for a second. But
Am I back?
you've been watching any Star Trek, Kevin? You never liked Star Trek.
No.
Do you watch any hack shows nowadays?
Hack
Do you
shows?
keep up on any shows,
This
even
is
though
where
they're well past their shark jumping moment, and you're just like, oh, let's see what they're doing?
No, I mean,
Nothing?
this is kind of lame, but like, I just watch home improvement shows with my wife,
Oh, really?
which is like totally self-defeating because it always gives her new ideas to
Man, I totally
Yeah.
fix
understood.
the house up.
Because like
I totally
ordinary
understood
guys,
that as a
ordinary
me
guys
too.
are
I'll admit,
like an
me
ordinary
too.
guy's like can't swing a hammer, and it's like, wow, wouldn't it be nice, honey? But she just turns and looks at you and goes, well,
Yep.
man.
I
but
want
what's
that.
what's that table saw in the garage for anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys ever see that Key and Peele where like they're married and they're meeting up for dinner and their wives are like when their wives are like they want something then and they're like he's like, so I turned to my wife and I said, bitch. He's like, you said that? You said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like there's one part where she's like, oh, I want I don't know what it was. I can't remember, but she's like, I want what they have upstairs. And she's like, oh, you gonna get it too? You know?
Yeah, just giving her everything she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Key and Peele.
Yeah.
Key and Peele.
Yeah,
You know which one I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Key and Peele are great. They are.
Yeah. They were.
Yeah, that was a good series. What's the names we got here? Flip's 94% peaceful. Do we have videotape of that? Because if we do, I don't trust it. I'm empathy scientist. We got Adam Sandler Stan. Is that because you're standing for Adam Sandler?
No, I am from Adam Sandler stan.
Oh, okay. So you're using one of his accents. I thought you were saying standing as in like you were gonna be one of the ones who like is hard backup, like a hard
remember that
in the corner of Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler did nothing wrong.
What's the Whitest Kids?
There's a Whitest Kids You Know thing where they come out and they're like, oh, we, our demographic marketing scientists have told us how to make the show more popular, and they run the SNL intro, and they start with starring Andy Samberg, and then they just keep going with Standy Bamberg, Sandy Bam Dam, and like it just goes on forever and ever and ever of just various variations of Andy Samberg, because that's how that show felt for a while.
Hey, Kevin speaks for all TBMs.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, somebody
I'll admit it. I'll admit it.
Troy's round, and we got the regular crew to come turn our nose up at the dum dums because we're so smart. Yeah. we wanted to talk about several. The problem with today, I honestly think this would be easier if we did 2 hours every day. I almost feel like we get around to these things, and I don't know what to reel it into because there's so many things.
It takes me like 4 hours to read through the chat that you guys have.
in one day.
Yeah.
That's just because you're like busy and stuff.
And I have all of it. Sometimes, like I look at my phone, I come back and be like, "Oh, I'm never catching up with all this."
Yeah.
I usually don't try to catch it. When I miss, I just I missed it forever.
Yeah, and then it's all right because somebody will say a story, and I'm like, "Well, I sent that story earlier, but
Yeah,
it's all right. I'll send one that somebody else sent earlier too."
That's usually me. I'm usually the late one to the party.
No, not at all. Every single one of us have done it, missed one and sent one. But
did any of you guys listen to the Jen Camp's?
Yeah,
but she had a new one.
Stalking.
No, her stalking thing got
RFM.
turned down. Yeah,
I started and I was like, "Yeah."
It was kind of. I'm always interested in legal opinion stuff, and it is like it's really rare that like a judge just 100% smacks them down. You know,
yeah.
Like most cases, like I've always heard that, like most of the time when things go to trial, they're marginal. And there's a balance to be had, and there's all these things to look at. But that was just one after the other. Nope, no.
They were dumb claims, though. That's true.
I know.
Extremely stupid.
I didn't realize she was doing an anti-stalking thing. That was
it was a restraining order, and under her
she's
restraining
trying to get
order,
a restraining order. Like, I don't think he really wants to be around her, does he?
Yeah. What are the chances that she announced that and then asked for money?
One of the things she literally said is that like he listened to one of her live streams for a minute. Or something, and that's stalking. It's like, well, why are you live streaming? Like,
oh,
So like one of her complaints is like, I went on a podcast and talked about my sexual abuse, and then John obliquely referenced it.
Yeah,
that monster.
I talked about my sexual abuse, and we said that we're going to talk about my sexual abuse in the near future. We have a planned podcast for it, and then he slightly referenced it, and now I need a restraining order 6 months later.
I know this is a topic that's important to you. That's what he said, and that was his threatening her.
Yeah. So we were thinking about hitting Dan McClellan. Dan, I was almost going to make a meme because I want to.
Dan.
I think like for some reason when I look at him, I think of Matt Damon. Matt Damon. I don't know if you guys. Matt Damon. All right, let's see it, Matt Damon.
Let's do a thing where every time we review Dan, we go, all right, let's obfuscate it.
All right, let's obfuscate it. Let's see how you're wrong, unless I agree with the rhetorical goals of this person. But that's
more
what I call a classic renegotiation of the Bible here. He's interpreting Jesus as being the savior of the world, but that's just renegotiation of what the text originally intended.
Yeah, no, see, like the way Dan talks is all Harvard-y, but what he's literally saying is the same thing AOC said when she said, it's more important to be morally correct than factually correct.
I forgot about that one.
And that's a real thing a sitting congressperson said in America.
At the same time, wearing a shirt that says "Data over dogma."
Yeah. Well, the thing I said on this post, I think Kevin saw it, but I mean, I told him like, I said, you prove yourself right here that the Bible is just something that people can use to twist into their own politics. You prove it because you do it, not because you're the people that you're going after doing it. They're doing it
evidence,
too.
His evidence for anything is always like, well, there's no evidence against it. Basically, so like he had that big video months and months back talking about how the theory of David and Jonathan being lovers or whatever. It's like people, weird little weebs get together and they're like, oh, I want to ship my favorite Bible characters too. But then they're like, oh, they must have been fucking because, in Progressiveville, men can't be friends. Nothing can be platonic because, weird, toxically masculine, I guess. But anyway, his defense of that was like, well, there's actually no evidence one way or the other. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what would evidence of them not being lovers be? Like, just them saying, by the way, for future narrators, we're not lovers? Like, is that your standard of evidence? Because, and his conclusion was that either interpretation is equally as valid.
Everything is real until he adjudicates it.
Yeah, who's renegotiating the Bible now, asshole?
I listened. I watched like 5 or 6 videos, and it's like he'll come in there and he'll say, "Oh," he'll go into all this pedantic like data talk, and then he'll like throw in like a side angle, and he'll say that there's nothing that supports this, and that's like he won't even elaborate on anything that supports his own claims in those videos.
Well,
Especially-
it's always cake and eat it too. Like I said,
Yeah.
like he had one this week where he was saying that the actual definition of racism and its usage from its starting point has always been power plus privilege. The first uses and all of the original uses of racism meant power plus privilege. And his argument for that is, well, just because if anybody ever brought it up, they were talking about the underclass or something like that. But then the very next day, he immediately argues that gender from its origins was always something that was negotiated and something like, so gender's original usage, if his first thing's true about race, then he has to also be true about the original usage of gender, because everybody prior to 1970, before it started getting politicized or whatnot, used gender interchangeably about sex. So it's true when it's one thing for him politically, and it's not true when it's the other.
Oh no.
Them are negotiating words and all that stuff, but he had on one of his things that he also says he doesn't like usage of the dictionary, but that's because he should be the dictionary.
Yeah, no. He just doesn't like that other people can write them. That's what he doesn't like about dictionaries.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. They're not the experts. They don't have 4 degrees from Exeter. Kevin and I think he glows.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe that's.
I don't know, man. He's pretty subversive. Like every freaking video is like got some subversive like line in it, man. I think he totally glows.
Well, one way or the other, what he's doing is he's trying to. You can't convince me otherwise. Kevin made a meme earlier, making sense to me. It was like one of those crowders convinced me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, I have it right here.
But
one of my, you want me to show it?
Yeah, one of my convinced me that I'm wrongs with him is that everything he's doing is trying to renegotiate Mormons being okay, completely in line with the Democratic Party. That's my that like every single thing he's doing is and he's ran for Democratic office twice. That's why I call him. I think he's kind of a Machiavellian, and I think every single thing he's doing is trying to politically realign Mormons with Dan McClellan. Dan McClellan's a non-believer. Change my mind. That's true, and change my mind that not single thing that he's doing is trying to. Well, the way I said it. Oh, we'll go into the theory. Deleuze will use their own postmodernist theories. Deleuze talked about the way neoliberals do stuff is they go and deterritorialize things and then re-territorialize them for the revolution or something for their thing.
Yeah.
His whole entire thing is every single thing he's criticizing when he criticizes some biblical person is because he's deterritorializing their whatever conservative view of it, and then he's going to go re-territorialize it for the Democratic Party. It's not. I say it's neoliberal because, like, I mean, he definitely sort of leans socialist, but I don't see anything that I'd call him like all the way hyper lefty. He's actually running for the Democratic Party, but the Mormons he has to re-territorialize them enough just to get them to the Democratic Party. So it's like he's playing that neoliberal game, which if you look up deterritorialize and re-territorialize and that stuff, it was a criticism of the postmodernists of something neoliberals do. And that's why I was being very specific that Dan McClellan is king of neoliberals. You're going into the world and using social justice talking point shit to re-territorialize something for, I can't say that word, for
that word's
your
ass.
political reasons. Deterritorialize. She said it in Spanish. Territorial.
There you go.
Desenterritorialismo.
Yeah. That's in you got the EN in there too. That's deterritorialize, re-territorialize. That's what he's doing. Deterritorialize, re-territorialize. That's Dan McClellan.
It's actually so rare that I will so confidently come to a conclusion so quickly, but it was like 2 or 3 videos of his before I was like, oh, this guy's not Mormon.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't believe in any of this shit.
I'm literally more Mormon than Dan.
Yeah.
No, seriously, like legitimately, like I said from the beginning, that's one of the things. Like Jacob Hansen's always kind of going around, kind of people are getting mad at him. Like we saw Anthony Miller gets mad at him because he kind of goes and picks people out and says, "You're not one. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing." And of course the neoliberals are like, "Oh, how dare you call out people who are obvious
You can't judge me.
entryist." And that's what I called Dan an entryist. That's one of the reasons he blocked me from when we Thomas Sowell trolled him.
He knows.
Yeah.
Wait, where'd you learn that word? You didn't go to Harvard?
Get out of here.
I just noticed what Jared's drinking. That is one of the best gins on the market.
I every time I see you like do this into the camera, I'm like, he's gonna do what I'm drinking.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like,
You
hey,
think
I
he's
know.
checking out your junk, and you're like, "Oh, it's
I've never tried it. I just barely got it on the way home, and I was like, oh, I've tried like all the gin at the liquor store, and I haven't tried this one yet. So
That one is different. That one has like a pronounced cucumber flavor. And it's interesting, like, because it's still really flowery, it's really perfumey, but it's got like a weird vegetable crispiness that a usual London dry gin never has. Anyway, I love that one. That's a real. I mean, I don't drink a lot of gin, but that's one that stands out as an excellent gin, especially just for taking neat. But for like springtime spritzers and crap, it's just optimal. Anyway, gin.
I like Diet Dr. Pepper.
That's pretty good stuff. What year? Good, nice vintage.
It's a
2022.
made in New York City. Do you remember when it used to be a major insult to say something was made in New York City?
Medium price is
Paste pecani sauce, man.
I've been wanting to try this one for ages, and I finally got my hands on it. I mean, I don't want to say because I get in trouble, but it's a small California make because I work. It's conflict.
Oh, you're not supposed to have it. Oh, it works. Yeah, let it go.
I'm not supposed to be seen to.
I thought you were getting in trouble by the Mormons.
Not the Mormons. The Mormons. I don't know.
I'm
like,
not supposed to have alcohol. My mom and dad will find out.
But no, but there's these California winemakers that like they're hippies and they make a really popular sought after wine, but because they're hippies, they don't overcharge for it. So instead, like it's just hard to find one, and I managed to get one.
So you're supposed to keep it quiet.
So as an alcohol connoisseur, what's the best alcohol that pairs with sitting in front of a Mormon church and flipping it off and taking a picture for the ex-Mormon subreddit?
Press.
Man, what will impress them?
Probably White Claw.
If White Claw. Something's got to show your bona fides, man. It's got to. Prove that you're
no, that's the thing. Like, I mean, a lot of adult drinkers, like ex-Mormons, you know, like they go to the sugary baby alcohol because that's just. I guess it's just kind of the progression. Like if you're not raised in an alcohol culture, I mean, that's things like, you know. I mean, I remember like as a Mormon, because you're like, wine, it's a magical drink made out of grapes. It must taste like grapes. No, no, it does not. It tastes like dirt and sand and vegetables and tannin and all kinds of weird shit. And it's not juice.
One of the few times that I drank a bunch of wine, I wanted to see which one was the best. So I went and bought a bunch of them. And I noticed as the night went on, they tasted better and better and better. So each whatever one I had less was my favorite, and then I barfed, and then I never drank them again. And that's
Scotch sangria, man. That's all you need.
And
God, yeah, that's baby wine. No, there's a few brands of wine that the way I describe them is I say this is a very good red wine for people who do not like very good red wine. And that stuff is enormously popular. I mean, it's basically California did it.
They do
like,
have
California
different
set the
tastes,
stand.
man.
Well, I mean, so like, because that's things like there's like your garbage, like your Blush Zinfandels and all those cheap Gallo California juicy crap, and that like I don't even consider that wine. It says wine on the label, but no. But then like there's like this whole class of like inexpensive table wine, but they're still kind of jammy and fruity, and they're for people who want to be into wine but don't actually like wine. And I mean, they're enormously popular. I think they're crap. That's the whole point.
I just saw a future vision of Dan McClellan getting a hold of this video, and he goes, Someone says, Flip says, I'll tell you what the best wine is. And then it cuts to
All
Dan
right,
McClellan's
let's see it.
egghead.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, let's see it. And then it cuts back to him. And then it's him going off on some 15-minute sommelier pedantic bullshit. And you're like, wait a minute, Dan, why do you know so much about alcohol?
Earlier this week, I finally tried Bosnian wine of a kind of a rare grape.
I was wondering when you were going to get around to him.
Plavic Mali. No, and I was really happy with it. It was really tasty. That's interesting. Super old world, really traditional wine. The dead opposite of what California's doing. Anyway, this show is called Wine Talk.
Yeah. Well, we were meaning to do that for a while, just doing like more wine.
Oh yeah, no, that's one of those things. Like I always, when I was involved with Mormon Expression, and I talked to John about it a few times, and I just couldn't get any traction. And that's things like I knew brewers that I could have brought in. Like I could have probably gotten like proper 501c3 style donations of beer and shit. And I proposed this. I'm like, I could do a series of alcohol for ex-Mormons.
And do you have any that taste like peaches? Just bring me the one that tastes like peaches and put it on my ice cream.
You know, there's a lot of people where I'm just like, stop wasting your time with wine, right? What do you like to drink? Orange juice, Coca-Cola, whatever the fuck it is. Okay, now buy vodka, mix them together. That's your drink.
That was my favorite. One of my favorite office jokes ever was they're at a party and Michael Scott makes a drink for Jim, and he's like, "That's amazing. What is it?" And he says, "It's a concoction I made up. It's orange juice and vodka. I call it an orange vodjuska." And Jim was like, "How come more people don't know about this?" Okay, sorry. We should.
All right.
Is our I can't tell if the
is anybody
comments are still going, but no. Anyway, did we want to look at any Dan McClellan clips? Did you have any pulled, Kevin? Or because I got the clips from the Bakavoy, David Bakavoy guy on RFM last night was not much better. It was like right along the same aspect of stuff. Although, I mean, I think that guy wears his religion on his shoulder, but it's really weird to me. You watched the whole thing, right, Jared?
Yep, I did.
I don't know if anybody else did, but so that's supposed to be RFM, right? I don't know. I don't know what the angle is, but I watched that entire show last night, and you cannot tell me that that's not just religion. It's just like they know the Bible, right? Like, and it's really weird to me. I get the same thing like when, we had some arguments. I don't think it's outside the box because he's also a live performer, but talk with Anthony D. Miller, and half of Anthony D. Miller's stuff is that he knows the Bible right or something like that. And it was kind of weird to me on RFM, and maybe the point of the show was we're going to let this guy talk or something like that. But the whole show was like David Bakavoy knows the Bible and the Mormons don't or something like that. But
it's just the whole irony of like, I'm an atheist and the Bible's not real. The Bible isn't true, but I know what it really means.
Yeah.
How fucking dare you?
And it turns out every single thing is like, it turns out it was all the opposite of what you thought. Did you know?
And that's why I still come back to, my favoriteest ever Bible commentator is the Bible Geek. And because people always ask him, why do you do this? And he always says the same thing. He's like, I'm tired of people who use the Bible as a ventriloquist dummy. Like the Bible exists, the text speaks for itself, Mm-hmm. But that's things like that's what these guys are doing. And it's one thing to say like, oh, this is my position, I think this is what the Bible is. But these guys are looking at Mormons who they disagree with and say that they are wrong and that they are following falsehood and say, oh, well, let me tell you the real Bible is.
It's the craziest thing, Mormons. It's the craziest thing is that Jesus actually agrees with me on literally everything. He's a socialist. He's for gender transitioning kids. He's definitely pro gay marriage, all of that stuff. Because there's actually no evidence.
I call him he though because he's not binary.
Name one scripture that where Jesus disapproves of gender confirming surgery. Name one. There's no evidence to suggest that he's against transgender surgery.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And he wants your taxes with the government. That's where he wants them. He wants your taxes paid right on time on April 15th every single year.
No, so I'm used to this stuff where like the atheists will try to claim Jesus as their own and try to act like Like he's all of my things, like he's a socialist, whatever. And it's usually just because, well, he was nice and that's all I know about him. He said be nice to people sometimes and that's all I know about him. But this was actually one of the worst ones I saw. David Bockavoy, a couple of the things that he claimed was like the parable of the talents. Actually, the guy who came back and had multiplied his talents was the bad guy.
Yeah, he's being too capitalist.
Yeah, he's actually intended that to be the bad guy. What was the other one? There was another one, another parable. The widow's mite. The widow's mite is not about sacrificing more. It's a condemnation of the priest who accepted the widow's offering in the first place. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
And like such a weird thing is like the whole like it's just so. I mean, I don't know. It's retarded because like that's even backwards from their whole idea about socialism. Because the idea there is that the priest, like the widow, knows the widow's situation. The priest knows the situation of 10,000 people. And what are the chances that there's somebody that the priest knows about that needs that money more than that widow? You know? Like, and it's just funny because, like, that's their very idea of socialism is like, no, trust us.
Equity.
We know who needs it the most, right? You know, and like, if there's any value to a priest, like, you know, that's one of those things that Eric Weinstein or no, the other Weinstein anyway, like when he talked about with Joe Rogan, Brett Weinstein, yeah. Where it's like, you know, like why, like how, what's the evolutionary advantage to a guy who cuts himself from society and doesn't have kids? Like, well, no, that's it. It's funny. Like it is actually a very socialistic idea, you know, on its core by itself. But now, no, they say they reject it and say, oh, no, that was wrong for him to do that. Like, oh my God, they're coming and going. They're tipping over themselves.
Well, and that's one of the things is like, so much stuff has happened lately. You remember the short Fat Taco video? Ben Shapiro covered it a little bit today of that Mr. Beast guy. And people getting really pissed at Mr. Beast for doing charity. And it's because we're supposed to delegate that charity to the government. And one of the longest arguments between, you know, conservative religious people and the government is who does the charity and why you do the charity. Yeah. And yesterday on the episode with RFM, I know you saw this, Jared, we had Maven when talking about how bad it was that when she would go to the bishop's storehouse, that she was sitting there wondering herself if she should be able to take a cake or not take a cake when she was using the bishop's storehouse. And part of that whole entire thing is like, okay, so you're getting mad at the concept of you're getting in your head about if you should have this or not. But I think that's actually one of the points of the religious viewpoint is you should be getting in your head of what's mine and what's not mine, what's taken too much or not taken too much. You're supposed to be made aware or being like woke to like, are you giving, are you taking, are you overdoing, are you underdoing, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so
whereas
I don't view
most of the socialist stuff is you're supposed to cart it off to somebody else.
Yeah, I don't view the Mormon church being somewhat stingy with its aid that it gives out to people as a flaw. I view that as a feature, because she was basically advertising using this other food bank rather than the Bishop's Storehouse because, well, when I went to this free food store, they watched me while I gathered the food to make sure I didn't take too much food, and the other free food store doesn't watch you while you take your food. I'm like, well, it's okay, it's still free food. Like they're both free food, and one of them is careful about it.
I wonder
which one of those is going to be taken advantage of more.
The government. I mean, like, and what is she talking about? I mean, granted, my last experience at the Bishop's Storehouse was in the 80s as a child, but I remember that my mom got a checklist, and we went through the aisle, and the checklist was in the order the products were in the aisle, and it says the bishop. Basically, you know, my mom went to the bishop and said, this is our financial situation. This is how many kids I have. This is how shitty my husband is. She constantly threw my dad under the bus. For some reason, the patriarchy didn't come to his rescue. Weird. but then we would go and like, 'cause I'd be like, Mom, let's get more of these. She's like, no, this is how many we get. And then we would go to the checkout and basically that lady would just be like, okay, God bless. You know, so I'm not sure. I guess I'd have to see what they talk about. That was my memory of it. Is that like, no, you can't just take what you want. You know, the bishop tells you, like, the bishop assesses your needs, and that's the thing. Is like, God damn it, the church fed us.
Yeah, I know. Like, well, I remember getting in an argument.
my mom got no shit for it. My dad didn't pay his tithing. He didn't go to church, and he wasn't temple worthy and all that shit. And for some reason, the church, despite all their wickedness, deigned to feed little 8-year-old me and my siblings.
Well, and I remember getting in an argument with somebody when one of my friends, when Trump was talking about rolling out his food package plan instead of the food stamps, right? Where they would send you like a certain amount of food every month rather than giving you the food stamps. And this friend of mine was like, well, my family's been on food stamps. And do you think that's fair that they would do the package instead? I was like, well, okay, I don't know if it's viable. It might not be. But if it were, like if you could reasonably ship food to people, yeah, I would rather do that. But what if they get food they don't like very much? I don't fucking care. I don't know, like, because I'm the Dave Ramsey type where if you can't afford to eat very well, it's rice and beans, man. Like, I survived 2 years off rice and beans and I was fine.
hey, that's just Brazilian dinner, all right?
I never got sick of it. I love rice and beans.
That's kind of one of the points of the differences between maybe religious charity and government charity, because the religious charity actually has some sort of moralistic framework to it that the person giving and doing the charity is supposed to be taking into account their heart and what they're given and what they're not given, and helping another person so they benefit from it. But then the person receiving also is supposed to be figuring out how to get up and lift themselves up and move forward and do better. Whereas government charity always becomes something that just grows itself and grows into more bureaucracy and grows into more need and grows into more of a therapeutic state that you're required to have.
Like, because one thing that, like, the food stamps program, which has always been a major criticism of it, is that you can buy Doritos and soda with your food stamps, and and that's the thing, is like, I kind of get it, where it's like, it seems shitty to tell this class of people like, you get no pleasure, but then again, flashing back to when I was a kid and we were eating the church's food, my favorite dessert when I was a little kid, in fact, like, I remember I was excited for it when we would go to the Bishop's Storehouse, was Deseret Industries canned peaches. My mom would put a couple slices of canned peaches and some syrup in cottage cheese. And I loved that. And in fact, I'm having all nostalgia for it. I'd rather have that than a bag of Doritos right now. But that's things like there's no junk food at the Bishop's Storehouse. Is that a bad thing?
No,
I don't know.
That's perfect.
What were you saying, Kevin?
I was just going to say that we could kind of circle back to Dan McData on because one of the posts he put up this week, was kind of going after Jordan Peterson going after the Pope for saying, hey, we need to turn all of our charity over to the government.
And social justice. Everything's got to be about social justice.
Everything. Yeah.
And Jordan said, no, not everything's social justice. And then everybody got in a huge Mott and Bailey argument about what social justice is or not. But Dan McClellan said, there is not one bit of the Bible that is not understood as being fully social justice or something like that.
Pope Francis is intimately connected to liberation theology, which is absolutely Marxist entryism into mainstream Christianity.
The one word
that's the history of that thing.
It's and Peterson's gone into it a couple times. He says, I think even that same post, you guys are supposed to be worrying about people's souls and internal processes, and the whole idea of liberation theology is to turn it into just worry about people's physical sustainability and their needs and their like the Marxist angles is like, are you getting your monies? What is that? Is that, can you make that?
Oh, wait a minute. No, guys, wait.
You see that
I'm
one?
looking at this here. It turns out Jackson Washburn vouches for Dan, so I guess we're wrong.
Oh, Jackson Washburn. Well, no, but he'll stop believing in Dan for Lent just for a college credit.
No doubt.
What school did he go to? I need to hear the credentials of these guys for it to be properly accepted as scholarly. I'm so tired of that word scholar.
I want to get
scholarness.
I want to cut out that clip of Thomas Sowell saying the single greatest privilege that you get by having a Harvard degree is to never have to be impressed again by anybody having a Harvard degree. And that's things like, because I don't have a Harvard degree, but I have met enough Harvard grads to know, like, honestly, at this point, I'm more impressed if you went to Snow College than Harvard. I'm not fucking kidding.
I agree 100%. Maybe if it was like in some really technical school,
Yeah,
I'd
like
still be
no, like if it's
impressed.
calculus, like if it's a
Yeah.
hard science, okay. Literally
If
everything
it's
else,
humanities, you're dumber. You're literally dumber.
you're dumber. Yeah, no. Like if you spent $80,000 on Doritos and just hung out at the library for 4 years, you are 100 times smarter than a Harvard humanities grad.
How do you like damn apples, Matt Damon?
Dan McClellan. Dan McClellan.
Dan McClellan. Dan
McClellan. You know what's so funny is like the South Park guys were asked about that. They're like, we don't have any issue with Matt Damon.
Yeah, they just
We just started doing it in the studio and just didn't stop.
well, they messed up that puppet and they thought it was funny because the puppet came out wonky, and they're like, oh, let's just leave it and have him be like Matt Damon.
It's just kind of like, yeah, Matt Damon is like, there's a lot of shitheads in Hollywood, but Matt Damon seems like a pretty clean dude.
Yeah, he's a little bit Democrat and a little bit.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
activist,
yeah,
not
but like,
the
yeah,
worst.
just like by Hollywood standards, he's John's fucking Stockton.
He had that one, and we
personal life.
pulled it up before where I pulled up his direct hypocrisy that he said if anybody falsely accused him of sexual harassment, it would be scorched earth. And then cut to him
talking about Kavanaugh. Yeah.
not just talking about
Oh, I do
Kavanaugh,
remember
he did
that
the
one,
entire
yeah.
thing. What did that? I didn't read that whole thing, Kevin. Was that just the clip of?
Yeah. It was really kind of the tweet that I just wanted to.
Yeah, South Park's been on a rampage for sure. So they started.
Yesterday's episode was. So
I haven't
good.
seen it yet. I guess that's not on
Yeah.
HBO till later. Like, where do you see it that day?
So
Comedy Central.
They release it like as soon as it airs West Coast, you can watch it on Comedy Central with ads. And by the way, I hate how smart the fucking internet has gotten. Because like if you try to go to a different tab when the ads are on, the ads fucking pause.
Oh yeah, you hate how
They
smart
make
internet's
you like
gotten.
you have to fucking
You
leave it,
guys-
like
You guys were
I'll pull out
talking
my
about.
phone.
You guys were talking about Kara in the Facebook thread, and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And I opened my YouTube, and it's the first thing, and I'm like, well, I guess I didn't need to. Like, the internet will just do it for me, I guess. You know.
Did I tell you
Internet
what
knows that there is
movie?
that.
Did I tell you what movie surprised the shit out of me?
Hmm.
Puss in Boots.
Oh, I heard about that.
I heard
yeah.
that.
Like, it was actually good.
Everybody says that.
Critical
And
Drinker
I've-
gave it a good review too.
Huh.
No, one of my friends told me a couple weeks ago, and then I was with Morgan, and I was like, let's just watch it. We watched. It was really fucking good. And yeah, Critical Drinker just the other day talked about it.
I've heard universal praise. Universal praise.
It
And
grew-
here's the other thing is like NPR hasn't put out some article vaguely shitting on it. So I wonder like what's going on there. Is
Well,
it
it's
just,
it's
did it
not.
just go under the radar? Is it just
It's just
the
not
movie?
political at all. Like it doesn't feel like there's any type of weird, stupid agenda with it. But there's also no like anti-agenda. You know, it's a story. It's like this deep story about like the inevitability of death of this fucking cat who.
Did somebody
YOLO'd.
make the undeconstructible film?
So maybe
like nobody, everybody just watched it and went, I liked it. Nobody had a problem with it. It's like a miracle.
So you guys
Who is
ready?
this David Buckle?
Are you ready
I've
for
never
this?
heard of this guy.
Jared knew about him more before this. I didn't listen to him here, but I mean, he
I
just
went
kind of
to-
gave you a basic bitch current day.
How
We went-
Mormons
Turn
went to
the
some-
Bible into social justice.
We went to some party with John DeLynn was there and David Bakaboy was there, and they made a big deal about David Bakaboy. I didn't know a whole lot about him, but he was a real ass about Jonathan's apology letter, his fake apology letter.
That was so.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
he-
good.
brilliant.
I'm happy to be dunking on him here because watch this.
Can we call this episode "How
Wait.
Ex-Mormons Twist Scripture to Worship Capital or Socialism"?
Yeah.
I was trying to write a song on the way home about a poor person and how it made me guilty to look at the poor person.
Yeah, listen to this crap. Mr. Rogers here is going to give us a song.
any. Okay. I tell you what, I think that would be a good time for you to sing that song, David. Do you have your guitar handy?
Fill in.
I had no
You know
idea
what?
you were going to ask me this.
Thank you. I'll sing.
All right, everybody.
Want to hear a song about it? Here goes. What was that from?
He had no idea, but his
was,
guitar
In
is
Living
in
Color?
tune already.
Want to hear it? Here it goes.
Buddy. Yes, this cloud does have a silver
I'll
lining,
play along.
and you're about to hear that silver lining in stereo.
Is that a
Oh my
Taylor?
goodness.
Yes, boys and
Thank
It's a
you
girls.
for
nice
letting me-
guitar.
I
Oh,
will,
boys
man.
and
But you
girls,
guys
we're
get
all
this
the-
going, but you can stop me. But this was one I was talking about at the beginning that
Yeah.
it's just been a big issue in my
Oh,
life.
it's a big
and,
issue for all of us.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
it's
this
big.
is a song that
Oh,
I
it's
wrote
so
when I was a
big.
young
I
kid,
so
like
wish I could
16 years
end
old, and I've been
slavery.
influenced by my concern for.
I got influenced by me. That's what I was influenced by my own feelings.
When I live downtown, and I live a block away from a special housing project for homeless, and I walk past the homeless every day, and I have no thoughts, just none.
You weren't inspired by your own thoughts to write a song? I sometimes get inspired by
it makes me
when I
these
drive
three
around
guys
down-
in Brazil when we lived right next to the red light district. Every morning we'd walk by these three guys that just had mattresses on the sidewalk, and they were nice. They just
Well, he
be
told that
"Hey,
same-
Jesus boys."
I think I've
he
asked
told
this
that same
before.
story. He told a story of like he was in Brazil, probably the same area you were. He said South.
He was very far south, so it was
But-
really cold.
So I like where you were, Jared. I don't know if it was like in Belo Horizonte, but like, because one thing that's different about Brazil is like in America, there's the nice neighborhoods and there's the bad neighborhoods. But in Brazil, there's just kind of everything's just
Yeah,
like-
it's really weird because there's
Yeah.
like you can tell how rich a person is by what like sharp shit they have on
Yeah.
the top of their walls, right? Because
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the poorest people have like shards of glass
Broken
cemented
bottles.
into the top of the wall. The richest people have electric fence and razor wire.
Yeah, like my aunt and uncle's house. My aunt and uncle's house, like, he's a doctor. He's a big shot by Brazil standards. He's not ostentatious, but they had like, by Brazilian standards, an upper middle class house in an upper middle class neighborhood. But every Thursday, somebody parked his donkey across the street.
Yeah, that's how Mexico City
His
was.
emaciated donkey that he used to pull a cart to pick up plastic bottles for a
Yeah.
living.
No, like, and
Yeah.
then like, but yeah, this thing I noticed, like, is in fact, I remember when I was there. I mean, this was 1996, and it's just so striking because we visited some people that their home was a compound, like it was a 3-story mini mansion on an entire city block, surrounded by a wall. They had a swimming pool, a futsal court, a tennis court. They had electric fences and everything, all this stuff. And across the street, they had a blue tarp for a door.
Yeah.
Like literally, the people across the street didn't have a door on their house, and these
So,
people were
that was-
multimillionaires.
I'm glad we're getting
Crazy.
the funny parts out of the way because you're gonna tear up when you hear this song.
Yeah.
You're gonna tear up more.
Sorry, we're getting.
You're gonna tear up even more when you realize when he mentions several times all of the charity work that he's doing by trying to help prisoners be educated or whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
That was one of the things that they told us in the mission when we were going to Mexico City that could cause culture shock, is that it could be like a mansion one door and next door there could be people like living in the street, and that
That
supposedly
doesn't
was-
happen in America.
Except for
Not
South
yet.
Carolina.
We're going towards
It's
something that those dissident right guys say that the future is like, because everybody's worried about like the U.S. is going to fall off the cliff, and they're saying like, no, just over time it's going to turn into Latin America. There's going to
Make
be
a meme
crazy,
that's like-
crazy wealthy areas and crazy, crazy poor areas.
We already
Make a
kind of got
meme.
it. You had that lady living on this front step of the art gallery,
And there's going to be rolling electricity loss,
no,
and there's going to be all that.
We can make a meme of an emaciated donkey tethered to a mailbox coming soon to a neighborhood near you.
Yeah.
Taking care of the poor and the needy, specifically in third world countries. So this is
Oh,
So Mr. Rogers.
nickels and dimes.
white guy's gonna tell us about third world.
So let me know when we're ready to go.
This is a song I wrote about third world countries and the poor people there.
It's so cold. Maria starts to cry. Sometimes I wish I could just lay down and die.
It's got kind of a Lee Greenwood feel to it.
And I know she needs me. Yes, I know that she needs me.
The sheep poverty.
And so I
Skirt,
beg
skirt.
for nickels and dimes.
She needs my nickels and dimes.
So I throw them at her as hard as I can.
Corn.
What's that?
So I throw them at her as hard as I can.
You're mine.
That's a lot of sixes for a
With U.S.
satanic
toys.
podcast. 6 6 6 6 6 6
And
6.
to
Ah!
feel that you're not so alone. I hold my cup to you. You just walk on by. If I'm lucky, then I'll get your nickels and dimes.
What planet does this son of a bitch live on? In
Say it's been
America.
gone.
This was
In
Mexico.
America. This is not how begging works.
It was Mexico. It was Mexico.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
oh, it's just I just.
It was Brazil.
Oh,
No, he was talking about. This was when he was 16, and he
Yeah.
went.
Yeah.
He lived in California, Southern California. And
What was he
surfed a lot,
talking
and he'd
about,
go down to
Nichols?
Mexico sometimes. This was a
Nichols-
story about when he saw a Mexican woman on a Mexican street begging for money.
But they don't have nickels and dimes.
Pesos,
How do you say?
pesos y monedas. Going to give my pesos and monedas to the poor gringo. Yeah. These poor gringos got nothing. Gonna give them my monedas. Yeah. And then I feel good about yo.
It's funny you should bring it up there, RFM, because I just happen to have my guitar right here, and this is a song I wrote called "Poor Old Mexican Lady." It's something like this.
This song is
Poor
called.
old Mexican lady. I'm just a white boy from California, and I feel really bad. I can't believe I have to look right at you.
No, don't look at her.
You
No.
make me sad. Fuck Donald Trump. Get vaccinated, everybody. Thank you.
See, like right now, I wish that I just had like a death metal guitar rig, and I would just start singing.
Amazon is hiring. Amazon is hiring. You can get a job. There's
Jared.
lots of openings.
Jared, check your email because you just got an invitation to go on Colbert.
Stop your conspicuous consumption. Send your money to the Lynn. Stop your conspicuous consumption. Send your money to the Lynn.
You're right, Flip.
This
Jen
is the
excellent.
song that ends poverty.
You guys did it.
Nobody does meaningless. Nobody does like meaningless, privileged celebrity songs quite as well as The Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
But there is that great pro-gay marriage song from Pop Star, like after gay marriage was already legal, and he wrote a song about how gay marriage should be legal.
If I felt like ruining my guitar, I would put "This machine solves civilization." Like,
Yeah. You're
For such a long in a foreign land where he promised he would find. Skirt, skirt. Maybe there's some way, and he could find it.
that's got like some Elvis to it.
yeah.
Nice.
To bring home more than just nickels and dimes. It gets so cold,
It's still going.
and Maria starts to
Pause it.
No, it's to the end. It's the end.
cry.
Is that like You know, because like I mean, I get if he's
Dame pesos. Where's Dame pesos?
it gets so cold, but the homeless shelter doesn't allow me to bring drugs in there.
That's an actual thing here. Man, we have homeless people in Idaho Falls. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah.
It's barely gotten into the double digits in the last like few months. And their solution to it was just, by the way, make it illegal to be out in the park past dark or something like that. But the homeless people are still there and they don't get kicked out. And there is a homeless shelter right down the road, but like you can't be on drugs to go there. And they're like, well, fuck that. I'd rather sit in negative 12.
There is a guy that looks about my age that stands on the street outside of my work every day for hours. I saw him stand for 9 hours in the snowstorm with the sign. He doesn't appear to be crazy. Like, and I don't know, maybe he's got a record. I don't know. But like, God damn it, we're hiring part-timers at $15 an hour. And I can't imagine, unless I was a crazy person, that standing in the snow with the sign was better. But that guy, he thinks it is. And so, like, at this point, like, what am I supposed to do with that? You know?
don't know his
Like,
situation.
Wait. Have you written a song?
Oh, fuck. I didn't think of writing a song.
You can solve this
Whoops.
problem.
Okay, let me go dig out the accordion.
This is a weird cultural shift I've noticed with the whole homeless thing. Is that lately when you talk about it with people, if you say, "Wow, I really want to help that guy out, but I'm afraid if I give him money, he's just going to spend it on alcohol," the overwhelming presence on Facebook is going to tell you it's none of your business what he spends my money that I gave him with. Like,
Yeah.
I want him to have food, okay?
Yeah,
if
what
he's just
matters.
going to buy alcohol, I don't want to buy it for him.
He's his own business and he can do
I
what
mean,
he
that thing is
wants.
like, if I give
Yeah.
him $15 and I think like he's gonna go buy a meal and a shower, but instead he gets a blowjob from a crack whore, like, is that contributing to society?
Does the crack whore, how does she use it?
Everybody wins, okay? You feel good about yourself. He gets a blowjob. Hopefully, it's
She
good
gets
because she's probably
she
just
gets a
got
cup of
thumbs
crack.
left, and she gets some crack.
And
I
you
prefer
get
the term
you get a
sex
song
worker,
out
but-
of it.
Sex
And the
worker,
Mexican cartel gets a little bit richer.
And
No,
then you
Kevin's
get a
right.
song out of it, and RFM gets a super tweet.
Yeah, Kevin's right. We should use the proper nomenclature for sex workers. Let's not disparage them.
A super chat. So quiet.
But I'm still confused
Can
about
you
who
hear
David
me,
Buckboy
David?
is.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, I was
He's just
asking.
this, like I said, if you listen that whole hour and a half before that, he's just somebody who knows the Bible better than the Mormons do.
He's
What do you
Did
feel?
that
he's got like a Mormon Stories episode or two. Like, he claims he used to be like an apologist. I'm not super familiar with him though.
come
Saying
through?
that? Oh,
Look, he'll
absolutely.
give some
Came through
description.
great.
Oh,
how
good,
you're-
good, good.
How are you feeling
yeah.
as you're saying that? It looked like
You
you were
know-
experiencing a lot of emotion.
I do.
I worry about his emotions with those poor people. Like, are you
I-
handling those emotions with those poor people real well? I don't know. Maybe.
It's been an emotional song for me. Like I said, I felt some deep feelings when I was a young kid at 16, and that had been influenced by and I want to praise the LDS community.
Give me cancer now, God.
I remember having this exact thing. I remember having it. It was a culture shock going to Brazil and seeing people who were much more poor than anybody in America will ever be. But the weird part is, the more time you spend around them, the more you realize, oh, they're fine.
Yeah.
Like, most of these people, they're just like, I'm like, oh my God, they live on a dirt floor and they only have one like bedroom between 3 kids, and they're like, yeah, that's our life, you fucker.
Yeah,
Like,
and it
we're
never
fine with
snows
that.
8 million pounds. And
The Brazilian poor aren't like American homeless because
And the
like
dad's
in-
still drinking his butt off every single day somehow. And you don't know where he gets
No.
all that booze. And
because that's things like the chronically homeless. That chronic homelessness in America exists only because of how successful America is.
Oh,
There's no such
we're
thing
so
as chronically homeless in the third world. They die.
we're so
Mhm.
successful that our impoverished are morbidly obese.
I know. No. One of the things I said this to my friend at work, and I made a face, and he laughed at me because of how dramatic I was. But I went, The homeless have smartphones.
I know.
It's a
What
mental.
does that mean about the world that American homeless have fucking smartphones? Nearly every one of them do. I know because they're always asking me for a charge.
Everybody below the poverty line in America is fat as fuck, and they bitch about it on Twitter on their smartphones.
Yeah, because all the things are there. Like the problem is we know locally. The problem is you can't get them to go to the homeless shelter. You can't get them to go eat. They want to be doing something else. It is a mental health problem and a drug problem. It's not a money problem.
Many years ago, I worked as a security guard for a big company, an international mega company that had a campus in Utah. And it was a big campus with 3 buildings, a lot of acreage, and it abuts the Jordan River. And from time to time, people would come to me and say, hey, I see people camping out there. And I would call the police. And there was one day that I went out there with the cops to that piece of the land, and there was a young couple with a 2-year-old camping out there. And I was there as the cop said, like, the shelter is a mile from here. Why don't you go there? And the guy's like, he's like, and the cop says, because of drugs? And the guy's like, yeah. All right. So look, that son of a bitch and his wife had a toddler. They had a little baby. There is help for them. There is at least help for the baby. But they chose the drugs. There was a place for them to stay warm and safe and clean and fed. And they have one rule. You can't bring your drugs with you. And these people said, no, we're going to camp on the banks of the Jordan River and risk being arrested. Because our drugs are more important than everything, including this little baby. That's homelessness in America. That's the story. It's not people who were down on their luck. Because I've been down on my luck. I've had to couch surf. I've been bailed out. But then I got my act together, at least enough to take care of myself, right? Like, that's the reality of homelessness in America. Homelessness in Mexico, homelessness in Brazil is a different story. Like, Americans have no fucking conception of what's going on. The whole idea that you can live in America without a job is totally a symptom of capitalist success.
Well, it says Maple Lake Mountain says that he was an apologist and used to run around with Daniel C. Peterson.
What? Dan Peterson pretty well dropped off. He's way too milquetoast for today's world, isn't he?
I guess I don't know what happened to him.
He kind of stopped up here. He went on Mormon Stories years and years ago, but then he made that whole like taper thing, and people just made fun of him a bunch. And
his apologetics around the time frame I was leaving, his apologetics were what to me was just like, no, this ain't working. But
yeah. That era of apologists were terrible. It was like him and Brian Hales, and
that's one of the things because we got into it a little bit this week with all the other things that happened and getting into with Anthony Miller and him claiming that Jacob Hansen can't go up. Christopher from Before the Crow's Nest made a claim, like you say, he made a demand, like no more Mormon stories until you have on Jacob Hansen.
Yeah,
and,
that's
pretty funny. But then Anthony Miller started making his apologetics for it and saying Jacob Hansen's just outright not somebody who should be allowed on.
He likes murder.
Because
I don't understand what he was talking about with it. Like, he defends a murderer. And I was like, are you doing the classic ex-Mormon thing where you just say he loves pedophilia because he likes Joseph Smith and I think Joseph Smith was a pedophile or was it?
Look, that's the thing. Like, I mean, so because Anthony Miller, he and I got into a back and forth because I had no idea who he was, and he and I got into a back and forth on that the Before the Crow's Nest post, right?
Yeah.
And like, and to Anthony's credit, he kind of came around. He's like, okay, maybe I misunderstood your position, but also on that thread, I replied to Jacob Hansen and I linked Anthony Miller saying, why does this guy keep saying that you defend rapists and murderers? And he never replied.
Yeah.
I called his fucking bluff. The the guy you're accusing is here now and talking. And
Yeah.
I'm bringing your allegations to him.
The
Here's your
answer
chance
is
to jump in and make your case.
there's nothing about
Crickets.
Jacob Hansen in his apologetics or his Mormonism that John DeLynn doesn't know and can't deal with or hasn't had on, or like there's nothing about that sort of stuff about what he believes in Mormonism that's outside of the box of the Mormonism that he's been dealing with. He can't have him on because he knows that Jacob can flip scripts on him. That's all there is to it.
Mhm.
Like he won't come on. He's not going to let anybody who can flip the script on him on. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Up within, and I was taught as a young child to care about the poor and the needy, and so I was
I
affected
wasn't.
deeply
From Mormonism.
by these
He
things
said that.
as I experienced them as a young man, growing up along the border, and it impacted who I am and what my values are. And my father, as I talked about, who praised the church because
Did a little piece of honesty from him, which I thought was pretty funny. But like he's got all those books in the background. But in this podcast, he says he's got ADD and he's never read an entire book. So,
Yeah.
Because I was actually just thinking about, like, if you sold your books, how many nickels and dimes for poor Mexicans?
it passed communion in a paper cup and was not
Audiences.
concerned about making money and investments and resources and beautiful chalices.
That's actually
and things like
one of the
that.
big problems with this is that like they always criticize like the Mormon Church for, well, you got so much and you're not giving enough. It's like, okay, well, how much is enough? What
Yeah.
proportion of your wealth do you have to give away? Because like your books, if you don't even read them, like you have to sell them, right? It's kind of like Bill Gates telling everybody like, sorry, you got to have regulated cars, but I'm gonna keep flying around on my private jet.
Yeah.
Well, I have to do it because I'm the exception here, and I'm bringing about climate peace or whatever. And it's like if you're going to tell the Mormon Church like you have to give until there's no more homelessness, presumptually, because
Yeah.
what is it, like $40 billion we can end world hunger? I don't.
Well, it's just what this is one of those things where, like, if you are under 25, maybe I can forgive you for being so fucking naive. But if you haven't learned by now that just giving people money does not fix poverty, it doesn't.
if
It's
they
been tried
have a
over
drug
and
problem,
over and
it
over
makes it
again.
worse. If they have a
Just
drug problem, they
giving
can kill
people money
themselves.
doesn't fix poverty. Like, it's a band-aid, and that's the thing. Is because, like, if the church had 4 billion band-aids, it doesn't matter if 4 billion people cut themselves every day. Eventually, the band-aids fucking run out.
Hey, you know how much the Deseret Industries sells books for? If it's a hardcover book, the average price is probably about $1.50. That's a lot of dough
yeah.
he could give
lot
to
of
the
nickels and dimes.
yeah.
So many nickels and dimes.
I got to show you a book that I got from there recently. I'm gonna hang on a second. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah, you showed it to me already.
Oh,
I was raised to believe in those things spiritually.
So Jacob Hansen, who's not here tonight, usually he's kind of in here going back and forth with us. Maybe he'll show up or something. But Jacob
Forrest?
and Kara,
Forrest, you mean?
Forrest, yeah, Forrest, Kara, and David. This is just the one thing I want to ask to all now ex Mormons or ex whatever. I mean, I guess it matters if you announce you've gone to a new religion, but is it important to make sure that everybody knows that you are now better? You are now more good because you left Mormonism. Because the way I see it in my eyes is you left and that all got obliterated to not mattering anymore. You know what I mean? Or we got to go refigure it out and that sort of stuff. But the whole goal of the entire operation wasn't to be better, to be a better person. Watch this. I'm going to show you something that I'm free to do. We always talk about freedom. Here's something I'm free to do. I'm a worse person than a bunch of Mormons. Wow, I'm free to say and be that. Or like, I don't have to go be the bestest, better person and put my whatever, type of morality in hyperdrive, like hyper panic, hyper super over mode. Like, it doesn't even matter. It's supposed to not even matter. But instead, it gets to a level of like, no, we got to show them that we're the goodest. We didn't leave Mormonism because we weren't good. We left it because we're gooder. We're gonna. That's the reason. Like, I can say, like, all those people get upset when they say you left Mormonism because you wanted to go sin. Like, I think the best answer to that is like, yeah, sure, you can. We can now. Like, we can drink. You know,
that's great.
Sure. You know,
Well, like, I mean, I'm trying to put this together. I mean, this is the thing that we always come back to, is that people are the same person out of the church as they were in the church.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you were in the church and your thought was, I am morally superior because I'm part of this church, like, then when you leave, you're going to have that same attitude.
yeah.
Like, because like I didn't have that attitude. I always took the message that the miracle of forgiveness message, which is, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You will
I'd say it's
never add up.
And
you
the
will
only
never be up to snuff. Like,
the
that
only
was
other
the only
level
way
is
I
like-
ever felt, and I felt that way out of the church as well as in. So like,
Yeah.
that didn't
And when I
change.
was a missionary, the only thing I ever thought was like, oh, let's go try our best, do our best. We're screwed up. Well, we're not great. Oh, and also, well, there's some guys over there that are obviously super screw ups who just like stay in the house all day and they're gonna do that. But then on the other end of it, here's these Pharisees over here. And everybody sees that these guys are complete Pharisees, hyper gonna stop you from
I
doing
totally
everything you're
forgot.
doing.
I totally forgot. Doesn't he say that like disparaging Pharisees is anti-Semitic at the end of this?
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I want to see. I want to
Everything's
see
got an
Kevin's
upside
book.
down thing
We're
to
gonna
go.
we're gonna
after,
go like off on that, but I want to see Kevin's book first.
Okay, I thought this was pretty funny. I bought this at the DI. You guys see that? Herbert
Marcuse from DI, one dimension.
That-
Yeah. I
Wow.
think I paid $2 for it.
$2 to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is well spent.
And I thought
on
it was
that piece of
fantastic.
shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most good that book has ever done, is that the church got $2.
Charles Wagner said, when I left, a few people told me my life would get worse and I'd be back. So for a while, this pressure to appear happier, I had to let it go. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Is letting it go. Is like, you don't got to be better. You don't got to be the best. All be for yourself. Like, maybe try to. Well, I mean, I don't even need to preach that. We don't need to preach that, right? We all know that we're just trying to do the best. But at the same time, too, if Flip drinks alcohol because, and sometimes that goes too far, he's getting a bit degenerate with it. So, like, he can pull out of it. You know what I mean? like it. We're not the world's greatest, bestest persons. You know, I've had some times where I was down, times when I was up, and times when I'm just trying. But there was no moment where I was like, "See, Mormons, I'm super Uberman." That's because I'm the best.
Like, when I try to explain, like, one of the ways I try to explain my position, like, why am I, as a radical centrist, my fight with Mormons is my same fight with ex-Mormons, which is basically like, you're not special. The church isn't special. The church isn't especially good. The church isn't especially bad. Frankly, on the like global historical world scale, the church is positively banal. It's just a run-of-the-mill religion, like it's not special in either direction, like, and that's my horrible blasphemous position. It's just like, they're normal. Leave them alone.
There's Christopher.
They're typical.
Before the crow's nest, we were talking about your post about getting Jacob Hansen on to
That was
stories.
Fucking funny, Chris. That was awesome.
Yeah, let it go. Screw it. Just after the church. Yeah. Just I mean, get out of your head about being the better or the bestest person.
That was kind of so. I had a back and forth with Kara on her video that she posted. It's very. She didn't
today.
Yeah, she only responded to me once. And
She didn't respond to me at all.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get to that? So I just wanted to, before going to, are we gonna move into Kara stuff? Do you have clips or anything?
We can move into it, but
I just wanted to show one other thing from that. Go ahead, keep saying.
Are you drinking that gin? Are you trying that gin right now, Jared?
Yeah, it's really good. You're right.
But like that cucumber, that weird cucumber flavor, because you're like, cucumber gin, gross. But like, no, it's tasty.
Ex-Mos have to prove that they don't need the Holy Ghost to radiate happiness. That is correct, Miss Connie.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh God, that blew up." Sorry, Jared, I cut you off. What were you saying about Kara?
So we got into it.
Totally
Yeah, you were talking about ex-Mormons trying to prove that they're uber people now that they leave the church or whatever. And Kara did that the whole time in the Rod Meldrum interview, and I was being really civil in my comment to her because I was like, look, she talks about how she explains to Rod Meldrum, she does that ex-Mormon thing where she's like, look, there's so few Mormons in the world, it's less than 1% of the population. There's so
There are roughly
Mormons.
as many Mormons as Jews. I still think that that's such a weird reality.
Yeah, that's crazy. But she's like, and there's so few Mormons even that listen to your stuff. So, like, proportionately speaking, why are you doing this? You know, how many people are you going to help? And he told this analogy where he's like, okay, there's these two guys. They're walking along a beach, and there's a bunch of beach starfish just sitting there on the beach, like thousands and thousands and thousands. And one guy keeps picking them up and tossing them back into the ocean. And he keeps doing that and doing that. And then his friend is like, why are you doing that? And he's like, you're never going to put a dent in this problem. And he says, well, I know I can't throw them all back in there, but for the ones I do throw back in there, it probably means everything, right?
Yeah.
And
I can't save all of them. I can save some of them.
Yeah. And it was kind of a cool little anecdote. And
I remember hearing that on my mission.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Kara, her response to that, and it was insightful enough, you know. She was like, okay, but have you ever stopped to consider, like, what if you're throwing them into fresh water instead of salt water? Like, what if that's not the right ocean or whatever to throw them in? And he was like, yeah, that's a good question or whatever. And then she starts to lecture him on, like, no, you have to know that this is the wrong ocean because you're causing harm and causing. Yeah. And anyway, she gets to the point where she's basically explaining that, no, you don't have the one true ocean. I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it started off.
I will tell you that.
Yeah, it was like
the environment that is good for starfish.
It started off this beautiful sort of critique, saying, why don't you be a little bit introspective and why don't you say, like, maybe you're doing the wrong thing and because I'm doing the right thing. Like, that's why you need to be introspective, because of me and my correct things. And I pointed that out to her. I was like, the starfish analogy is great and all, and your retort was pretty insightful. But the sense I get from you is that you now know which ocean is the objectively correct ocean to throw a starfish into, and it's different from the ocean that you used to know was objectively the real ocean. We're all tossing starfish into the oceans, and we think we're correct. So can you really fault Rod for doing what you're also doing?
Jared.
What's the one true ocean?
It's just special cleaning.
Kara's empathy is so great that she even knows what's best for echinoderms. Her empathy is so science, so logic, so reason. She'll tell you exactly the right ocean for that starfish. She fucking knows. It's not the body of water that is literally abutting the shore we're talking about. Because she's like, how do we know these starfish wasn't deposited from Mars?
Well, she's got this idea that, like, it's like when you talk to people about, like, climate shit, and the thing they say the most in climate shit and with COVID, by the way, is the science is settled. The science is settled. But they take that one step further, these progressive, they're woke moralists, and they tell you that the morality is settled.
Yeah.
The morality is settled. We need empathy, and we know that everybody knows that being a Mormon causes harm, and advocating the Book of Mormon is perpetuating a racist system. We all know that. Everybody knows it. Why can't you get with the program, Rod?
I like most of what I've seen of the actual Rod Meldrum interview were the clips that Kara showed today. And, like, I don't know. I mean, it just goes to show to her lack of self-awareness.
I know.
That the clips that she showed show her being completely intransigent, obtuse, prophetic. Like, she does not understand. She has more faith than Rod Meldrum.
He's the guy having
Rod Meldrum.
He's the guy trying to, like, have just like a discussion about, man, you know, we believe this, we have this, and she's the one preaching.
Yeah, but he knows, he believes she's wrong, but he can compartmentalize that and be like, well, I think you're wrong, you think I'm wrong, and let's talk about.
But she's not saying how much of a cell phone
how much of a cell phone the clips that she selected were. Where it's like, no. You know what I see, Kara? I see two intransigent fundamentalists refusing to budge, except that Rod Meldrum will give an inch and say maybe. Kara won't.
Rod Meldrum also wasn't in the business of trying to convince them. He was just in the business of trying to describe his theme.
He was there to be interviewed. He's there to be
Whereas
interviewed.
they
like
were
every
trying to
Mormon guy
convince
before.
him.
Like that's like, it was totally a struggle session. 100% that's a struggle session. Not what do you believe and why, but how dare you believe this and let's change your mind. Like,
and we can't move an inch forward till you tell us what we want to hear. Say what we want to hear. Say what we want to hear.
So pathetic.
Here's a last little bit of this, and I'll get off this one.
Howdy face. What is it? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear.
Well, that was brief. That's woman's love. Sorry.
Dude, that was so sexist. Come on, man.
You know where that's from. It's total Hamlet.
What is
They said that was brief, and then he said, "As a woman's love." It's a quote from Hamlet. It's just a funny little thing. David Bogovoy just thought he was being a dick.
Yeah, that's so sexist. It's like that's Hamlet, but Hamlet's sexist. Don't you know? Haven't you been to Harvard? Hamlet's sexist. That's what you learn at Harvard now.
Wait, do you have the timestamp for the part where he starts to explain that, like, criticizing, like, being too hard on Pharisees is anti-Semitic?
I don't know, and they don't have the transcript on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, you gotta look at that.
I don't know why their transcripts have stopped showing up.
I wonder, are they concerned at all with how many Semites are anti-Semitic?
Well, that's the thing. He's trying to explain why all of the bad guys were actually the good guys in the Bible, and then you get to the point, like the ultimate of that is he's just like, oh, by the way, the Pharisees weren't bad guys.
Like, have you ever looked into like the world of anti-Zionist Orthodox Judaism?
No.
It's a thing, and it's fascinating.
That's crazy because I've been led to believe that all Jews are a monolith and think the same and want to subvert America or whatever.
Like there's Orthodox Jews, and then like there's like ultra-Orthodox Jews, and then there's another step where they're like they are anti-Israel Jews because they're like, because basically their whole thing is God didn't establish Israel, Britain and America did. That's basically like their point is like, hey, this whole Israel thing is bullshit, and we're against it. Like we believe in Israel, but it will be a supernatural event. It won't be a declaration by a fucking monarch and America.
They just need to settle on a Messiah already. Holy shit, guys. Come on.
Just pick one. Just pick one.
We had ours 2,000 years ago.
He will save us all.
All right. Should I pull up some Kara stuff?
Yeah. What else you got?
They're pretty great.
I was going to say this episode is particularly disjointed, but then I realized, no, they're all like this.
This one's been flowing pretty well.
Are we flowing?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm flowing just because I've had a bottle of wine. So.
Well, because what's not disjointed is Bokovoy and Dan McClellan are the same type of thing, and Kara's also the same type of thing too. They're ones who know the correct and right way now. And
I only have a little bit of experience with Bokovoy, but I feel like Bokovoy is sincere.
Yeah, I don't think he's evil.
Oh yeah.
I think Dan.
I think Kara's sincere too. I think Dan McClellan's a Machiavelli.
No. Kara is sincere. Kara is sincerely that stupid and egotistical. I feel bad, but should I?
No, it's fine. You're right. It's I don't get the sense from Bokovoy that he's like a bad dude or that he's
like. Whereas Dan McClellan, like, first off, if you are willing to run for public office under a major American political party, you are announcing that you have no principles. That's how I view that. You have no principles. Even if you are yourself not a liar, you are willing to align yourself with liars, in which case, fuck you. So, like, that's like, if Dan ran for office, I already know, no, you are willing to lie. I don't think that this Bacavoy guy is willing to consciously lie into a camera. I think Diane McClellan will consciously lie into a camera.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Dan McClellan, the Mormon, is trying more hard to tear down the Mormon church than David Bacavoy, the ex-Mormon.
No, like
yes.
Barack Obama is more Christian than Dan McClellan is Mormon by a long goddamn way.
And it's not really that big of a deal, but it's this moment right here that just my anxiety was peaked happened.
It's
Like you're
leading-
saying, John DeLynn, did you hire a female co-host so you could talk over her? No, you didn't. Listen, love you so much.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
When I think back on it, I do think she's trying to joke there, like not like the very first time I interpreted it, I was interpreting it as straight up being that way.
So I did too, and then I watched this, and it, I don't know, the seeing it more, I was like, I think she was like flustered, and she was annoyed because being constantly interrupted.
Oh, that's true. She
Annoying.
was,
Yeah.
I think she just got flustered and accidentally started to kind of snap, but then reeled it back in halfway through to make it sound like a joke.
But
That's
feminists can't joke.
You can't
about
make
men.
this joke. Yeah.
Feminists cannot joke about men for the exact same reason that Nazis cannot joke about Jews.
Yeah,
we see through you.
You've made the points too many
Yeah.
times. Even if you purely meant it as a joke, there's no way it can't be taken that way.
You have already made your enmity clear. You can't wash this off as a joke.
Yep. So it doesn't matter one way or the other.
It's like she had a panic
So
attack.
at that moment,
But also, because normally I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care except for I know that Kara's politics. Kara, why do you bleach your hair? That's a very Aryan beauty standard to be upholding.
Stop upholding Aryan
What
beauty
the hell
standards.
what the hell is the matter with your natural hair color? Why do you go through all of the expense to uphold unrealistic beauty standards?
She's like Bebe beating up Butters in South Park. That's pretty true.
Who is this guy?
Well, Butters was being a cocksucker, wasn't he? He was rebranding at that time.
Well, no, but his brand was
His brand was the
yeah. That's his brand.
But I do think, looking back on this now, because we kind of didn't know, and we had our guesses, and we thought they had a complete falling out. But it probably was this moment because it was.
Well, you mentioned
when did this interview happen? Is it after the Jen stuff was happening or not?
No, it was before.
During.
It was before, during.
Maybe
they knew stuff was already kind of bubbling or boiling.
No, it was quite a while after that Jen finally.
Reading between the lines, like I think that Jen was into the conflict. But, well, like, okay, in what world does the woman with BPD get along with her coworkers?
I know. Well, that was like Kara actually gets into that in this. She talks about how she's like, looking back on it, I think Jen was already trying to cause rifts and cause issues and gunning for my job or whatever.
How very patriarchal of you to think that.
Well, it's kind of funny because, like, I don't know, we joke about Kara not being very funny, but like she's Bill Burr compared to Jen. Like Jen is not built for this shit. She just sobs all the time.
You know, like I think with rehearsal and practice and writers, Jen could be funny.
Jen?
No,
sorry, Kara. Sorry,
Kara, yeah.
Sorry, with practice, rehearsal, and writers, Kara could be funny.
Yeah, see, I dislike her.
Jen could totally do a Hannah Gadsby.
I was right. Now laugh at my jokes.
They're gonna be there making jokes, and
There's only one Hannah Gadsby joke that I thought was funny, which was when she said, like, I knew more about unicorns than lesbians. Like, okay, that was a genuine joke right there. That's it. That's all of them. That's all of Hannah Gadsby's genuine jokes.
Yeah, it was quite a while before the Jen stuff happened. So, but I still think John DeLynne's, I mean, from all the stuff in the past, he's of course going to be on pins and needles about any of that stuff. But the whole thing that New Name Noah got all pissed at her for was just her joking never seemed to kind of like read the room of like what current eggshell things for John there was. Like there's something to be said for like a court jest or something like that, ribbing somebody or something. But there's things about like the Lynn's touchiness and touchiness of his world that you kind of can't traipse into that territory. Like, oh, he's raping me. Oh, he's being abusive to a woman. Like you guys lost the ability to be able to be sarcastic about that with them.
Yeah.
And it's your own pins and needles that made that.
And I just remembered what I wanted to preamble
about Kara and Jen and John Dehlin and the Mormon Stories Foundation is let's not forget that the Open Stories Foundation is centered around mental health and building communities.
You got a bunch of BPD people getting
And it's
life
all
coach
just
certificates.
It's all just internecine warfare. It's all religious battles. It's all personal fights. It's all triggering and panic attacks, and I can't take this anymore. And the whole operation is run by a clinical psychologist. The irony kills me. Like, it's just so amazing. Like, they exist to foster mental health and build communities, and it's all just constantly fracturing. It's amazing. Like, you can't write this comedy.
I didn't know this until Actual Justice Warrior covered Ocasio-Cortez today, bullcrapping with her fake dress, like that whole dress thing. She was basically begging for a donation, and it's all technically illegal and all this stuff. But one of the things he brought up in that is 501c3s are not allowed to be political. And I guess I didn't really know that entirely about 501c3s. And some of our points about the Lynn not being neutral and being overtly political, even though he tries to mouth the words otherwise, isn't just him trying to be okay or a ground for Mormons to all ex-Mormons like to come to the same place. The fact that they stage John Larson constantly all the time for him to rant politically and them take money for it, and then never, ever, 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 ever even think about looking at the other side of anything is illegal for a 501c3.
This is exactly why the church, and Kevin's here, but I know he's here, and I'm going to say it anyway. But the church is positively 100% hypocritical because they announce for this very reason, we don't have a political stance, but everybody fucking knows better. Yes, they do. But on the surface,
I don't know which one it is anymore. So
that's part.
I don't know who they say to vote for.
Yeah, but that is a real problem. And this is why I've always I don't know how to
Dan's
do it.
here to fix it.
If the church had an official stance about last election or this upcoming election, who would it have been?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Well, hey, Uchtdorf's voting record came out.
This thing I've thought about for years because ideally in a perfectly ideological world, the way that I would fix it is very simple: is that religions, 501c3, whatever we want to call it, you're in a special category. But the whole blanket tax exemption, I think is obviously bad. It doesn't work. It's broken and it's manipulated all the time. My solution, however, is change the laws so that charity is tax-free. Everything else isn't. Now, the problem that I immediately run into is I know that bureaucratically this would be a nightmare to adjudicate. But my whole thing is my archetypal analogy is sending crates of food to Africa, tax deductible. Sending crates of Bibles to Africa, fuck you, pay taxes. Right? That's kind of my whole thing is if we created a legal standard that said no, this is charity, this is tax deductible, this is building up, this is doing the things that the government could not do otherwise, But again, I admit that I don't know how you could actually create a legal structure that would make this fair. But the current 501c3 religious tax exemption is broken. It's obviously broken. And the preemie example is Scientology. Scientology is obviously
I think Mormon Stories is a preemie example. I don't think they have any business really being 501c3.
That too.
They're not really actually any sort of therapy.
But
they have political angles 100%.
Yeah, no, actually, that's the thing. Honest to God, Scientology has a better claim to doing therapy than fucking Mormon Stories by a long goddamn way. I can hear way more testimonies from ex-Scientologists saying they got benefits from Scientology technology than I ever heard from fucking Mormon Stories.
But yeah, no, like I mean, I don't know what to do with that, but like that's like my ideal world is that like no religions, like genuine charitable work. Okay, that should be taxless. You should get a break for that. Thank you.
Yeah,
but all the
for
other
sure.
shit, no, you should be a regular corporation.
Totally so.
And oh, by the way, I'm a racist colonialist, and I'm upholding systems of oppression because I used Africa as an analogy for poverty. Whoops.
Do you remember that whole thing where like Britain was like going against anybody who was going over there as a missionary or anything like that? That it was. Well, it's the same.
Remember
it's the
when
same
Mormon
stuff as
Stories had
Mr.
an
B.
issue with going to Africa and telling the polygamists that you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
sell your daughters for money? It's wrong for us to tell you not to sell your daughters for money. We shouldn't be there. We shouldn't do that.
It's called cultural relativism. Okay,
It's colonialism. We're imposing our values. Remember when the British Navy imposed their anti-slavery values on everyone else? Those assholes. Colonialist oppressors.
So much oppression. How do we deal with it? So let's get into like the therapeutic state stuff. The Jacob Hansen making a claim that Siegel Book and Tape is there to feed Mormons who are just into therapeutic religion stuff. I don't know if you guys saw that post. But well, that's Jacob talking crap on his own religion right there, saying like Siegel Book and Tape's just becoming the therapeutic state as much as anything else. But I think Dan, Bakaboy, and Kara, all of it is leaning towards that weird. I was listening to some of those remnant guys, the guys who made the Who Shot Joseph Smith video tonight, and they just kind of described it pretty straightforward. That the way they describe most ex-Mormons is that they've all just kind of signed up for a WEF religion or something like that, that we're going to just rely on the state or some sort of stateism, the therapeutic state. And I think every single one of these guys are kind of pushing towards everybody saying, get your empathy out and just deal with the state. Just deal with the state and let the state and make sure the state does all the charity and whatever. But part of that therapeutic state, I don't know if you saw that Christopher Rufo video on it, but he was talking about how he was getting into the details about like how women are winning everywhere. They're taking over college, they're taking over every single degree, they're taking over every single, like by 60%, 70%, they're leading in every single field. They're the majority taking over like graduate degrees, they're the majority taking over everything. And then beyond that, they're the ones getting all up into administrative positions. We saw
I sent you guys a message earlier today because I work in the alcohol industry and I read the trades. And every goddamn distillery is announcing a woman master distiller. Like every person being promoted to master distiller in America is a woman. Go figure.
Yeah. And then who sent the thing today about Utah State announced that like 7 out of 8 of their provosts are women or something like that. And we got the National Women's Month, but they had all this stuff about Women Plus on.
Isn't today the actual day?
Yesterday.
Women's Day?
Yeah. Or I guess, yeah, it was,
I think it was yesterday.
So they have all that joke and stuff about Women
actual,
Plus.
like International Women's Day. So.
Oh my god!
That's usually they put them in separate days outside of the actual month.
This is one of those wonderful ironies of the first world is that in the West, all the women with their cell phones, with their smartphones and their internet connections were like, International Women's Day. Meanwhile, in the third world, the women just went to work.
Yeah. So in the whole intro here, it just talks about how in the universities, the feminization of the American university and how they're taking over entirely in that. But we already saw that post. Who sent the post of Utah State? Said 7 of 8 of our provosts are women. They're almost perfect. We got to get rid of one more of them. This one, he called it like the longhouse. And that's like one of the terms that everybody's been talking about is like putting us into this longhouse society. And what's the longhouse? It's just kind of talking about like old, like gregarian or agrarian societies that people stopped kind of working very hard, and they all just kind of went to the longhouse to become become cattle themselves in like a weird way, you know. But yeah, those are all sort of interesting things. But I think they all kind of push towards a therapeutic state, and that one of the reasons I'm pushing that or going at is last week we talked about the managerial state and how everything's getting managerial. And one of the persons who talked about the successing thing of that, Paul Gottfried, is a guy who said, and then that leads to the therapeutic state. And then, of course, other people say, and then from there, that leads to the total state. And it's all just turning your religion and your statism into a religion. And that's what Dan McClellan's here to do for us, is to help us all see that Mormonism always really should have been just the Democratic Party. And that's my diatribe on that. But then I have a funny video if you want to see that. But is there any other subjects you guys wanted to? Let me show this one thing.
Did you see Chuck Schumer's response to those?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, that was insane. Like he was straight threatening Tucker Carlson.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing.
I'll post this "What is the Longhouse" thing in the credits if people want to like look more at the people talking about.
I watched most of that. Yeah.
I didn't realize, but Tucker Carlson is releasing more tonight.
Oh, is he? No, like because this is one of those.
Well, he's got 40,000 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I just love the part where like Tucker isn't telling the whole story. Okay, so fucking show us.
Yeah.
You guys have the whole story. What is it?
No, that's the thing. I was like excited to, because the footage that we've seen so far was like pretty much what we expected. Like they were always saying, yeah, they just open the doors and let us in, and they let us around and stuff like that. And we're like, oh, that's crazy. And we watched it. And we're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then Chuck Schumer comes out and is like fucking mafia style. It would be a shame if something would have happened to you, Mr. Carlson, or whatever. And you're like, holy fuck, what's in this footage? What the fuck are we gonna see?
Yeah.
And what we saw is that's the funny. It's like, 'cause it's one of those things like the right wing conspiracists were right about everything. The fact is that there was a small number of violent people, and the vast majority of people weren't violent. And like, you know, that thing is like, because the whole time I was agnostic. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know. And then it turned out there was video. Now I know.
Well, I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of that right away. Like I saw.
Yeah, I haven't been shocked at all about any of this stuff. Like it's even the things about Setnick not getting killed there. The New York Times already admitted that forever.
Well, yeah, no, I knew that part. I knew the part where Setnick wasn't killed. I knew that 5 people didn't die that day. Because again, there would.
But you could already pick up from other stuff that they were just letting those guys in. And
totally.
Yeah. Well, no, like other things like people mentioned that, and I'm like, well, that seems likely. Giving everything that I know, that fits the narrative. But
and then the stuff about Ray Epps, there was plenty of different people who dug up.
Sorry, Troy.
People's on.
So that guy is 99% sure a Fed plant, right? That's where we're at with that Ray Epps guy.
If we were going to the pearly gates, and they said you get one question to answer, and if you get it right, you're going into heaven. If you get it wrong, you're going into hell. If you ask me, was Ray Epps Alphabet Agency? I can't be specific, but it was the Alphabet Agency. I will just say, yep. I won't even like stop and deliberate. Yeah. Like, yep. Like, give me my answer. Am I going into heaven or not? Yeah, he's Alphabet Agency.
Did you guys know that Chansley guy, the Buffalo shaman?
Buffalo shaman.
He like 6 months before all that was like protesting like climate change in Arizona.
No, one thing that Tucker didn't bring up about that guy, and I kind of wonder, I kind of feel like it might. I don't know if he's trying to protect him, or if it's Tucker trying to maximize his narrative. But that Chansley guy is a schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. He's nuts. Yeah. And for anybody to take that guy at face value is nuts.
And he's the person who almost took over our whole democracy. Oh, like he almost got it from this guy. He was like right there, and he almost took it. But luckily, we got it back.
Like that guy represents any political movement. Like no, he's literally paranoid, delusional.
If you were to try to like set something up, he might be one of your guys that you would want to use and walk
Yeah.
around and take
Oh, he's
him
a
to the same
gift.
chamber, you know.
He's
yeah,
a
well,
gift
there's
to
a
anybody
long
doing
history
psyop.
of those types of alphabet agency guys using guys like that to go be their perfect fools. But the I like to imagine if we had like the South Park world that guy was able to walk in and grab the gavel and really was able to change the democracy. Like, oh no, he got in. Well,
No.
Buffalo head guy. And
One
I
of those crazy
declare
things, like-
Trump the president again. Bonk.
Like,
Dang
no!
it! No.
1998 me that was hate listening to Rush Limbaugh and Hannity just to disagree with them. If somebody had told me then, like, the CIA gave Ted Kaczynski LSD at Harvard, I'd be like, oh, come on, you're insane. But it's on Netflix now.
And you want to know what else?
And it turns out that it's
the same
totally
guy
true.
gave the same
CIA
guy
gave Ted Kaczynski acid at Harvard.
You want to know what else? The same guy gave that same acid to Manson and to a couple other famous people too. It's just true. And you're like, well, what the hell happened there?
Because that's kind of things like, I mean, raise your hand if you may or may not and cannot confirm or deny at this time that you have ever consumed acid. But like,
No.
why are you lying
have
about it
consumed
then?
acid.
Why are you covering it up? Like,
Yeah.
if it's not important, why not just come out and say like, well, yeah, this is what we were doing.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, I don't even know that necessarily means that they would go ahead and end up doing that for sure someday.
Yeah.
But the
No,
guy,
it's like,
I think he was also attached to Ted Bundy.
My experience with psychedelics is that what little desire I had to build bombs and destroy the technocracy diminished with psychedelics. Like my desire for civilizational destruction was almost nil, and acid dropped it to nil.
Did I lose Flip or whoever lost it?
Oh no, it's you.
Yeah, that's just funny. Is like Kara keeps talking. One of her a priorities. One of the things she says is that if you go and just take mushrooms and get run with the world, you'll see that you'll just totally agree with me and understand that you're wrong about stuff. I'm like, if you like post mushrooms and post psychedelics and stuff, I shot the opposite direction from you. I'm trying to find that guy's name. I can't find it. I saw it, but it's probably not too hard to look up. The guy linked to all those same names. Oh, here it is. I found it. What did Timothy McVeigh, Saran, Ted Kaczynski, and Charles Manson all have in common?
Saran shot Bobby Kennedy, right?
Yeah. Louis Jolyon West. Same guy who did experiments on all of them with acid.
That other thing about that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA asset. Like, that's another one where it's like, when 1998 me was like, oh, come on, guys, get a grip. And now, like, as an old man, I have to be like, God damn it, those fucking kooks were right.
You want to know what the one that tripped me out? I didn't realize this. I watched the movie Clue, and when I was a little kid, I had no idea, and I didn't realize every single one of them was a government agency person.
FBI,
and so it got surprised to, like, it was a shock to me that they're all dealing with the WHO. One of the guys says he's with the World Health Organization, and one of the guys says he's with the UN, and one of the guys says he's with the FBI. I'm like, all this just went right over my head when I was a kid, and they were all blackmailing each other and all that sorts of stuff.
Slightly aside, but like, because those movies came out almost together, was the mid 80s the peak of screenplays? Because Clue, that screenplay is perfect. Ghostbusters, that screenplay is perfect. Was that the height of films, 1985? Because computers, you couldn't do anything. Because like computers existed, and there were computer-generated graphics, but they were still obvious and clunky.
Yeah.
So like you still had to make movies the old-fashioned way with, imagination. And like, yeah, because like I think about Clue, because like
talent, they used to have that.
Yeah. And that's the other, the cast for Clue. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh my god, I had an advertisement, like a sponsored ad on Facebook for Clue. Here, that's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is that? Redneck Riviera. I don't know that one.
Me neither.
What does it say on it? Read the label to me. I'll tell you all about it.
It says, work hard, play hard.
Okay, they didn't make that.
Small batch of whiskey with vanilla, honey, smoothness, and a subtle oak finish.
Read the back. Does it say distilled and produced by, or does it say produced by, or bottled by?
You guys ready for this?
I don't wait.
So
I can't tell.
there are government laws. It will say either distilled and bottled by, or it will say produced and or bottled by, and that will tell you if they actually made
I
that.
can't
or
see
if they
either.
bought
Oh,
that
it
and
says
rebranded.
bottled by.
Okay, so that almost 95% chance that came from Indiana, and it's a big fat lie.
So anyway, I got a sponsored ad on Facebook, and it was for Clue, and like the actual board game Clue, and it looked like it was rebranded for modern audiences because, as the stereotype goes, they took the one redhead character, Miss Scarlet, and made her black.
Like, okay,
I'm scared. I'm
Clue.
typing in Clue movie reboot right now.
It wasn't a movie. It was.
But I'm just saying. I didn't think you were, but I bet you there's something going on.
I meant to send it. I'll send it to the group.
yeah, no,
Ryan Reynolds Clue remake is still happening.
No, God,
March
no!
24th, 2022. Why did I know? Why did I know something like that would be there?
Oh
Yeah.
God, no! You can't fix perfection. There's a reason nobody remade Citizen Kane. Don't
Here
fuck
it is.
with
I didn't
perfection.
even know this exists until
No,
Jared
yeah.
suggested it.
Oh my God, there's a Ryan Reynolds Clue movie.
Listen, I'm pulling it up right now.
99.9% chance it's garbage. Okay, first
Ryan
off,
Reynolds led Clue remake taps Oren Uziel to write. Who's Oren Uziel?
no idea.
Look it up and see how
Oren
How-
Uziel.
intersectional of a writer he is. Let's see. Paul Wernick. At one point, Jason Bateman was attached.
He wrote Spider-Man.
Jonah Tatum and Jonah Hill.
He is very Jewish. I mean,
This
I
is
don't
old
know that.
cast. Eileen
I just know
Brennan,
that the name is very Jewish.
Madeline Kahn.
I
Christopher
don't-
Lloyd, Michael McKean.
Frankly, if you tell me that Jews are producing my movies, big thumbs up. Keep it up, Jews. I love your films. I love what you've done to Hollywood. Keep controlling Hollywood, Jews, because I like your movies.
The South Park where Randy sits down and he's like, "Oh, I think we've gotten over the woke thing. Don't you think you can stop on the woke thing?"
Here's
So Miss Scarlet is black in the board game. No, the other
we
look, they
go.
made Professor Plum black too. But okay, there's no Asians. Colonel Mustard looks like my dad, so fail. That's not
Well,
diversity.
Well,
Colonel
it'll be so
sounds
easy.
white supremacist.
Oh no, Miss White is a dyke. Fuck
They made
you.
they made it intersectional, and it's like you just start out the game and you like just open up the first thing like, is anybody marginalized? Who's the white guy? He done it.
yeah.
And that's the end of
Just,
the game.
just change Mrs. White to Mrs. Dyke.
This
Just
is-
change the name.
Oh, fuck.
they wouldn't be able to write that if that was there. They'd have to all be white, just like the original Clue, so that they could
'cause,
all
like,
be bad, because they're not
God
like
damn
these
it.
people aren't allowed to be bad anymore.
Madeline Kahn's performance in that movie, is burned into my memory.
It's
Since I
Burn
didn't
flames.
it's
burned into my
flames
brain.
of Madeline Kahn from my head
From
since
my
I
head.
was a baby.
Burn since I.
No, you can't make Madeline Kahn into fucking Megan Rapinoe. Jesus Christ.
But at the same time, even if they did, if they made it all these intersectional people, they're not allowed to be the terrible people that they all were.
You think
Yeah.
they'll
Do
re-
that.
do you think
No, that's all
speaking
fine. They're supposed to be shitty. They're all bad people.
Yeah.
speaking of Madeline Kahn, do you think that they're going to remake Blazing Saddles? Because I'm looking forward to that one.
I used to make my ex-girlfriend so mad because I used to say because people are like, oh, would you ever, would you ever wander? Do you have wandering eyes? And I'd always be like, well, no, I'm monogamous, but if I dug up Madeline's corpse and she was wearing the outfit from Blazing Saddles, I'd go for it.
It was obviously just a joke. It was obviously over the top, but my ex-girlfriend didn't get that. She did not think it was funny. Because the other one I would say is like, well, no, I would never leave you unless Patsy Cline's reanimated corpse sang me a song. That was the other version of that joke that she did not get. It's like, no, these people are dead, honey. You're fine.
They'll remake Blazing Saddles, but it will be serious. And the part where he holds himself up like he might kill himself, that'll be a trans person. And he can't have that happen. You know?
I just want to see that script where they replace every instance with N-word. Somebody use AI.
The sheriff's an N-word. Did they ever make like a 4 TV version of that? Look up if they ever made a 4 television version.
6 minutes long.
Yeah, I wonder if they did though. I bet you they did somewhere.
I think I remember actually seeing
the sheriff's a guy.
I think that they did. I think they did.
Look it up.
I
See if
think
you can
I've
find
seen
it.
too.
The sheriff's a person.
Blazing Saddles made for TV. A weird IP story of the forgotten Blazing Saddles TV spinoff. There was a TV spinoff?
Oh my goodness! All right,
Black Art.
Since we've gotten to the non-PC area, you ready for some non-PC stuff? Right?
I'm ready.
Step back into the story. That was sensational. So the guy, I mean, I'll just play it again and now comment on it with you.
This week, when 2 monkeys from the Dallas Zoo disappeared, but there is good news. The Emperor Tamarin monkeys were that obviously is not a picture that.
Bro, read the screen. Missing monkey suspect.
We expected up there. We have a zoo story we're telling here, and
so saying the word monkey in proximity to an image of
that guy actually stole the monkeys too.
That was real journalism. You know, it made me think of there was some time like 20, 30 years ago.
Wait, he stole monkeys?
Yes, he stole monkeys and a cheetah.
There was a guy, I remember reading a long time ago that there was a guy who ran for like state legislature in Louisiana, and his last name was Whitney, but the ballots had a mistype that spelled it Whitey, and he lost the election.
Black man made that guy just blue screen and crash. He did a system reboot because he doesn't want to be like, now I don't think that this black man on the screen is the monkey. I want to make that clear. And then later, watch.
We expected up there. We have a zoo story we're telling here, and
that's not the picture you expected up there. Something was stolen, and you didn't expect to see a mugshot of a perp that was black. That's just completely out of nowhere. When have we ever seen that before?
Apparently, these monkeys vanished from the zoo, and now
it's a zoo story. That's the guy who stole from the zoo. I mean, these dudes are like paid actors. Like they're just so clueless.
Now, the suspected thief has also been found. Police say 24-year-old.
That's not a picture of.
So that laughter there is him being ashamed of the fact that he just got caught in a moment of white guilt, where it's been clearly exposed now that the story makes sense. The 24-year-old in custody.
You feel bad for a talking head like that because he's not
like,
wrong that he's in bad territory and didn't know he was going to be in bad territory.
He's a corporate guy and he knows exactly the environment he's in, but he also knows that he's on live television.
Is the guy that you just freaked out about. So now he is acknowledging in that moment of awkwardness and laughter that it was him who was uncomfortable about talking about monkeys and seeing a black person. And he doesn't want to acknowledge that. So now he just gets the hell out of the story.
Okay. We're going to step out of the story right now. And Matt Grove,
what the hell was that? Now, I thought that was beautiful. It's just a funny clip. I mean, so embarrassing. We're not even at the beginning of this story. The story begins now. Okay, that's all prelude.
It's Planet of
beautiful.
The Apes?
It's
that's the new. I mean, they're a little old now.
Didn't you ever watch old Planet of the Apes? It looks like
not old. I mean, there was like 3.
No. I mean, that's obviously not the Charlton Heston one, but that
these
looks
are
like
the Andy
crap.
Serkis ones. These are the Andy Serkis ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's not drama. That's computer graphics. Gross.
They were
all it
the
ever
first
is.
two. They were pretty good movies, actually. You should.
Oh, were they?
I don't know what the third one was. Yeah, like,
I
look
don't know.
it
It's
up,
like
you can see.
I mean, I'm only watching clips, but I'm getting a little bit of live action Lord of the Rings vibe, where it's like, no, you're better off with guys in masks.
Well, that's Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things. Like, you got to keep his career of being the CGI actor guy
Yeah.
going. But they were ultimately good movies because they. I think they're allowed to do actual drama if they're doing some sort of CGI for it. You know what I mean? But,
I watched the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes in the theater. And
how
that's
is that?
literally all I remember is that the ending was stupid and that I was disappointed. That's everything I remember about that. And Helena Bonham Carter did a good job. Like,
Nuh-uh.
like, well, no, because I like Helena Bonham Carter. Like, for me, she's like one of those people. Like, she fucking delivers in whatever the fuck she's in. She delivers. She's a world-class actress, and she does the job. But that's it. Like, that's all I remember from the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
One thing I didn't like,
that and the ending pissed me off because it was dumb.
the one thing I didn't like her in was Sweeney Todd, because have you
I
ever?
never saw Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd should have been cast with real deal singers, because if it's a good show and all that sorts of stuff, and it's the singing, this music's good, it's Sondheim and all that. But if you go and like watch Angela Lansbury play that on Broadway, and a real
Angela
baritone
Lansbury, they're real deal. Angela Lansbury, real fucking performer.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and if you just hear the singing, I mean, Helena Bonham Carter did a good job of acting it, but if you like hear like the real singing of that show, it's so light years ages better than what like the actual movie put out. But I'm trying to find the 2001 Rotten Tomatoes was 44% and audience score 27%, but the Rotten Tomatoes of
I agree.
Man, Andy Serkis made such a career out of War for the Planet of the Apes. Was 94% tomato meter and 84% audience meter. It's
Uber Mormon says I only drink whiskey with smoothness. That
you gotta.
is
You're still
a
in
silly thing to say.
You're still in the Mormon. You got to get into the real Uber Mormon and drink it as nasty as you can get it.
Well, this stuff is pretty nasty. Actually, I didn't realize it, but it has like a bunch of fucking syrup in it. It's gross.
Oh yeah, no, it's like because that's the thing. They're shooting whiskey. Like smoothness is shooting whiskey. Sipping whiskey, like some smooth whiskeys are good for sipping, but like I don't know, I shouldn't say, but there's the latest batch from a locally produced whiskey of their 100% rye whiskey is special. And it ain't smooth, but it is really good.
Anyway, of course, as you can imagine, the rest of the story of that is, of course, a bunch of the typical types picked up that guy and tried their bestest to get him canceled and all that sort of stuff.
That goes back to that thing where it was a couple of years ago where San Francisco police, the Bay Area Transport Police, whatever, announced that they were no longer going to show mugshots of criminal suspects because they didn't want to perpetuate racist stereotypes. Like, holy shit! Like, what kind of world is that?
Yeah. Anyway, we're coming up on the 2 hours. Anything else?
Oh yeah.
To chitty chat or talk about? We did hit the 2 hours. Scotch is definitely unique. The higher the proof, man. People wanted the alcohol talk today. That's what was mostly coming over in the.
Well, because Scotch is weird because American whiskeys, because of the production restrictions, particularly the barreling restrictions, there's a lot of sameness to American whiskeys. Whereas Scotch, because first off, there are no barreling restrictions, and they use whatever wacky local water that's local. Then you include the peat thing. Scotch is all over the place. Like Spacesides are fruitcakey, dessert-like, spicy. Islas are a campfire in your mouth. Whereas like bourbon, like as much variation as there is in bourbon lives in a tight little band because the restrictions are so tight. It has to go in that new charred white oak barrel. so it's gonna taste like a new charred.
All right, let's see it.
Yeah.
There is no data to support any of the stuff Flip just said. This is just him doing his rhetorical prophylaxis, trying to push his identity politics with high. What's the other term?
He's like, I meet people all the time who are like, they're like, oh, I don't like Scotch, and it's because the first time they ever had Scotch, they had an Islay, and they thought that that's what Scotch meant.
The first time I ever had Scotch, it was Lagavulin, and I thought it tasted.
That's
like
an Islay. That's an Islay.
Disgusting. I poured it out when my friend wasn't looking.
That's an Islay Scotch, and like 10% of people taste an Islay as the first Scotch, and they fall in love. They're weirdos. Like, I was fortunate because I was introduced to Scotch by a Scotch nerd who walked me through seven Scotches. Like literally, this is what it did, is because he walked me through 7 different Scotches. Started with a very light Speyside, worked our way through Speyside, through Highland, through Lowland, and finished with Islay. And having gone through it step by step, I learned, like, oh no, the whole spectrum of Scotchiness. And because of that, like, I love Islas, but like, if the first Scotch I ever had was an Islay, I don't know if I would have liked it, because I mean, like, there's a famous Islay Scotch that their own marketing material says it tastes like kissing a mermaid that just ate barbecue, and they are not wrong. And like, these same guys, like, it's funny, like, there's a YouTube video of their distillery, and the YouTube guy, like, they start out like, we're going to talk about the water, and he's standing outside on Islay in front of a big reservoir, and he's holding up a Glencairn glass filled with brown liquid, and he says, you might think this is whiskey, but this is the water. Literally, they use brown water to make this shit.
Oh.
And that's what makes it so delicious. I love that shit, but it's because I know what goes in it, you know? But like, if you don't like that, don't think that you don't like Scotch. Get a Speyside. That's a whole different animal. Speysides have no peat, and they're fruit cakey and spicy and desserty. They usually spend some time in sherry casks, gives them some sweetness. It's a whole different animal.
I like pizza.
That's just Flip's identity politics. That's not biblical. There's no data to support anything that he said.
Unfortunately, Kevin just said pizza, which triggered me to remember the Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, Ninja Turtles.
And what's happened to them?
April O'Neil.
Oh my God! Like, you said that clip, and I didn't know what it was.
I said that on accident. Oprah O'Neil.
No. To truly be Oprah O'Neil throughout the series, he has to go through massive weight changes.
every single scene, she's a different weight.
Like, in one scene, she's like, "Oh, fat phobia," and then the next scene, she's like, "Broccoli and margarine."
Let's see here. Oh my goodness.
What did people say about Scotch? The higher the proofs, the higher the flavor. Generally true, but cutting down your barrel proofs can really change them. Like, not a lot, but just put a little bit of water in them, and it really opens them up.
Let's see here.
It is Ron Swanson where we got it from. That's Ron Swanson's drink of choice is Lagavulin.
I haven't tried. Like, I never tried the I don't know. My general opinion on celebrity endorsed liquors are they're usually good but overpriced.
Oh yeah, you got
exceptions.
But that's not
one bar
that's
around
part
town
of the show, right?
It gives you like, yeah, it is. It's not like a celebrity endorsement. It's just Ron Swanson is a manly man, and he loves drinking straight Lagavulin.
Well, no, but they made a special. They made the Ron Swanson blend. They did a blend.
Oh,
they did.
Yeah,
his signature.
And how much? But they wouldn't like really charge like some full super price.
Well, I mean, it's mixed. So, okay, when you look at scotches, I mean, and the rule in whiskey is if there's an age statement on the bottle, the age has to be the age of the youngest barrel, because almost all whiskeys are blends of barrels. You know, like if it's a single barrel, that's a single barrel. But other than that, they're all going to be blends of barrels, usually of different ages. So, like, you know, if it's a 10-year, it means the youngest barrel is at least 10 years.
you'll see all the time all kinds of special edition scotches, or like often they're called distillers editions or whatever. And usually what those are is a lot of fairly young whiskey. Like single malt scotch, the minimum is 5 years. But no single malt scotch will brag about being a 5-year scotch because it's the minimum. But what they will do a lot of times is that they will blend a lot of 5-year with a little bit of 10-year and a little bit less of 18-year and a tiny little bit of 25-year. And they'll call those like distillers editions. So that Ron Swanson thing is almost certainly a lot of young scotch with a little bit of old scotch blended in. And there's nothing wrong with that because there's a lot of great blends that work out that way. It's just a marketing thing that they don't want to brag about the age because the youngest barrel is only 5 years. But anyway.
Well, there's April O'Neil on the screen.
I can't believe that.
And word on the street is one of the turtles is going to be gay. But I tried to look up which one it is. Which one is it going to be?
You know they're all gay.
It's a new generation of turtles, though.
Oh, it's not.
So it's
Donatello,
not
Michelangelo.
Yeah. So the four of them
Wait, no, I know how this goes.
I'm just glad they overcame pushing racial stereotypes.
There are three. There are 3 genetically mutated turtles, people, and then one of them is a salamander that identifies as a turtle.
Here's the weird part, though. Like the turtles have always been. I guess you could call them asexual or whatever. They don't really have romantic.
It's a show for kids.
Yeah, because they're fucking turtles. So and the thing is, if one of them is gay, who are they going to be gay for? Their fucking brother?
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen in the first 5 minutes. They're going to kill off Splinter to get rid of the patriarchy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It all comes back to Squidbillies, man. It's that episode where he's, am I going to marry a damn paint can? What are we going to have, a turtle marrying his brother turtle or some shit? And,
well, we always all thought that Shredder
he goes down to the gay turtle gay bar where all the gay turtles are.
Shredder and Krang, they were always like a bickering old couple anyway. They should just be married, right? I didn't realize those turtles weren't supposed to be the typical turtles because I was like, which one of the 4 turtles would be gay? I mean, it's gonna be Donatello. It's gotta be Donatello.
Oh, of course it'd be Donatello.
Yeah.
Because science. He's an empathy scientist.
No. Andy has the biggest stick.
Oh gosh. That was too easy. We set it up. Oprah O'Neil and Big Stick Donnie the Gay Turtle.
Glenfiddich 12 is pretty good. Nothing wrong with that.
Anyway, should we get wrapping up? We end with a song for the poor.
Yes.
I feel bad. Look at me. I feel bad.
I got so much empathy.
So much empathy. Yeah. Science empathy.
The science of empathy.
I don't know why I wanted to do his Scott Stapp version of
with arms wide open for this poor lady. She wants a house to stay, but I've got a song to sing.
Wait, what is it? Please come, love. Think I'm falling, I'm holding on. That was one of the first. It was one of the first songs I wanted to learn on guitar because it's such a cool little riff that he does there, but it's such a stupid, terrible song.
With banjo, with the arms wide open under the starlight. Welcome to this place. I'll show you everything with the arms wide open. With all my nickels and dimes.
Oh man, we got to finish this with a washboard and a Jew's harp. All right,
we saved some poor people with our music. We can feel good about ourselves. We're good again. We're gooder than Mormons. Now if you're not gooder than Mormons, you're not good in life.
You, Kevin.
I still suck.
It might be cold.
Maybe
outside,
one day,
but
I'm still complicit in murder and tax fraud.
To our graduation, we graduated.
Yeah. So wait, Kevin, what do you want your
struggle
church to do
session
with
for
all
Kevin.
the money? Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
want them to do the money? What should they do
Wait,
with that money?
Kevin, wait. You admit that Brigham Young is a piece of shit rapist, right? Right.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Have you seen my
I'm
theory?
sorry on behalf of all the church. and now you can all shut up.
We had the
I'm nuanced,
spokesperson
damn
here
it.
the whole
I'm
time.
nuanced, Kevin. Kevin, renounce your beliefs right now because I'm fucking nuanced.
This is one you can't ignore, Kevin. You can't ignore it.
Good times.
Yeah. Oh dang it! I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway.
I don't know. I still pay my tithing, so.
Oh man.
Even after all the revelations.
I mean, I'll say it again. I've said it before, but like, if there was some organization out there that was just hoarding retarded amounts of money for a future unspecified tragedy,
yeah,
let it be the Mormons. They threw me out of their organization 20 years ago. You guys keep that money. You hold on to it, because I goddamn know that if it ever came down to it,
you'll all be back
would
in
help
church
me.
in 5 years.
Oh hell yeah! I'd come back. I mean, I'm still on the record, so technically I'm just inactive.
Oh,
Alrighty.
Kevin, if you just keep sending your money to that organization that's not taking care of the poor at all, you owe 3 songs.
Yeah, you haven't. How do you feel good about? How do you sleep at night having never written a song feeling bad about poor people?
Did you even write one song for the poor?
no.
Oh my god.
That's because you're spending too much time
I'm gonna write a song.
apologizing for the.
Don't launch airstrikes in Ukraine. The song, and that'll save the world.
I stand with you, Queen.
I think that good things are good and bad things are bad. Come follow me.
That's my song.
Oh man!
Did you ever see the Ukraine flag that's like black and red?
No.
Are you talking about
look that up. I actually started watching. What's the freaking guy's name that did JFK and?
The director?
Yeah, what's his name?
Ukrainian Insurgent Army.
Oliver Stone.
So he did one on Ukraine, and I started watching it, but like. Just kind of showing about how corrupt Ukraine's government has been throughout the history of the world, and they have a kind of a history of doing turncoating, but they actually had this flag that's just like the 2 colors, but the bottom was red and the top was black.
I just looked it up.
Yeah,
they're fucking Nazis. I like this.
I kind of want to get one of those flags that says "Stand with Ukraine" on it.
Oh my god, that's funny. Okay, where do I do?
So when did they change it? I found it on Wikipedia.
So I think in 15 years, one of the things
Look at
that. One of the things that's going to be a feather in my cap that I'm going to be very proud of is the fact that I never had a stupid fucking Facebook filter of I stand with blah.
No, yeah.
Scroll up.
Well, okay. I mean, I got I support the current thing one.
Yeah.
That was.
Oh yeah.
I showed you guys my Facebook memory just of this week of that Uganda thing from 10, 12 years ago, where I was making fun of people I said something about I woke up in the morning and I saved Uganda because that was that whole original thing. You remember that guy ended up going nuts and jacking it naked on the corner. South Park had an episode about him, that jacking it. The guy who brought up the Uganda thing, made Uganda thing some big old deal, and then ended up going nuts.
Slava Ukraini, Geroyam Slava. Well, that puts a different tint on the Slava Ukraini thing. Jeez.
I said forever ago, and I hold it to be true, because Jacob Hansen was asking what worldview is better than the Mormon worldview. And I'm not saying what's better or best, because I'm not in that business. But if you take a South Parkian worldview, you'll figure out a whole lot of the whole world, because a lot of it is just a bunch of bullshit and people lying and people being idiots, and the dumb thing is what is true. And
the data in no way support this.
Special year. Man, there's an awful lot of information about.
That's just my
Ukrainian monkeys on
costly
YouTube.
signaling for my prophylaxis to support my identity politic. Flip's gonna.
Westward ships are pulling after
You don't
World War
realize
I.
that, Kevin, that you just sent Flip probably down a rabbit hole for now.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna spend some time on this. So, you know what I didn't even bring up that I spent a bunch of last week reading about, which like I never looked into before, and holy shit, that was an education. The Bay of Pigs. I always knew that was an American fuck up. Holy shit, what a fuck up. What a comprehensive, embarrassing fuck up. Wow. It's important that we don't talk about that. Just kidding. We should talk about it. But no, like, it's amazing. Just like, yeah, I didn't realize what a disaster that was and how responsible America was for the disastrousness of it.
The disastrosity.
Yeah. Ukraine on fire. Oliver Stone.
Go watch Ukraine on fire? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like that is one of those things where it's like it bugs me because like I don't like to say nice things about Tucker Carlson, but like Tucker Carlson keeps bringing up like guys, Ukraine has always been extremely corrupt. Like
yeah, it's just a money laundering place, and it's just a place to do your proxy wars. That's like exists only to do that.
Totally.
But that's the thing. I mean, Biden was over there laundering money since Obama days.
But they say they also do other stuff like
testifying, and that stuff got all swept under the rug.
They have weird military and science labs there too, and all that sorts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's too bad they blew up that AN-225 though. As an airplane nerd, that breaks my heart that they smashed up the biggest airplane that ever flew. Although I heard rumors that the Ukrainians say they're going to rebuild it, but like that seems like a pipe dream at this point. Because like they got to rebuild houses before they rebuild the largest transport aircraft in the history of the world, but alas,
they'll go for the aircraft.
Anyway, one just dumb thing about the airplane, because I'm an airplane nerd. The cargo hold of the AN-225, the Antonov 225, which got blown up in the Ukrainian war, but was the largest aircraft that ever flew, the heaviest aircraft that ever flew. The cargo bay of that aircraft is longer than the distance of the first Wright brothers flight at Kitty Hawk. Anyway,
so suggest us a couple of biblically correct alcohols, Flip, and let's call it good. And if it's something that Dan McClellan disagrees with, you're off the podcast.
Wine.
Just wine?
And wine's all over the Bible.
What'd you say?
Oh, come on, Dan. Do you honestly think for a second that Dan couldn't mental gymnast his way out of saying that the wine in the Bible wasn't really wine or something like that?
It is factually incorrect to say that wine is all over the Bible.
It was actually Sprite.
There are actually 947 pages of the Bible that don't mention wine.
There's actually absolutely no evidence whatsoever to say in the Bible that every time they said wine, they weren't referring to mellow yellow.
Oh, that's right.
No evidence whatsoever.
They call it mellow yellow. Quite rightly. Is that the worst line in music history? Have you heard that song? They call me mellow yellow. They call me mellow yellow, and some guy in the background keeps going, quite rightly. Quite rightly.
Quite right.
I should have had that in my song. Like, I will give you, I put monedas and pesos, I'll give them to you quite rightly. That's my whole working hymn going for the thing. We still got to do all the way from the beginning, and we get lazy on this stuff because we have all these little skits ideas, and we have ideas to like make that songs. Flight of Dragons thing. And our skits about Foucault and all that sort of stuff, but we need to seriously sit down and make our woke hymns. We got to.
I really do know. I need to finish it, but I wanted to do thoughtfully with empathy. That's how I'll fix society. That's my Kara song.
We had one. I used to put it at the start of stuff. We should just keep it as the start of stuff. But it was that one of like. It's John Dylan and Kara. They're full of empathy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hi on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
A live stream
Podcast?
is unfurled.
It's John Dylan and Kara.
Kara with empathy for all the world.
Coming soon
Like,
to
No, the thing is because like goddamn,
shorts.
it's like
We gotta do shorts.
I'm a-religious. I'm a-religious, but I have opinions on religion. And like if I had to live in a religious neighborhood, I'd rather they be Mormons than people like John Dylan and Kara by a long, long way.
Oh yeah. That's
Because I know that the Mormons would tell me, like, I mean, they would, I don't know.
It's the overarching thing. There's 90s Mormonism over future WEF hellhole. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, like, it's like, I mean, that's the thing I keep bringing up is like, it's built in to Mormon theology. Like, it's fundamental to the Mormon worldview that whether or not you are a Mormon and have to live with Mormon values is a personal choice. The woke don't have any such thing.
They have logic.
Like, yeah. No. They're telling you
they have rationality.
This is how you live. Yeah.
And it is always produces art.
Yep.
All right.
If you could hide to science.
If you just do logic, then you would agree with me. But because you don't know anything, because
It's
you
called
lack empathy.
empathy.
You should read Ibram Kendi and D'Angelo.
I'm the
Does
empathy
that
scientist.
tell you
I am
what-
full of Christ's sympathy. Or I'm full of Kendi's empathy.
I am full of empathy.
Don't you
Cool.
dare mention Christ. We're talking about empathetic figures.
Empathetic like
Jesus,
Dan McClellan. I'm full of Dan McClellan empathy.
Dan McClellan. McClellan.
How do you like them apples?
All righty.
Okie doke.
Go make dinner.
I gotta walk this nutto.
That dog is so goddamn cute.
He gets antsy because this is his walking times.
I know. I can tell.
So,
That he wants to go out and give money to the homeless.
yeah.
All righty.
Well,
See y'all
fun to
next week, kids.
Hasta luego. See you. Bye, everybody.
Peace out.
Over in chat.
Dan McClellan.